Hello there, and welcome to something a little bit different from my usual session recap videos. Today I am going to be reviewing Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer Magazine Issue 1, released exclusively in the UK as a bit of a trial run for reasons I don't know. Couple of disclaimers before I begin. One, I am a video games reviewer for over 10 years and a magazine reviewer of 22 seconds, so you'll have to forgive me if I miss a lot of the nuances that you would normally expect from a Partworks review. From what I understand, Partworks are quite a big publisher of these sort of things. They do all manner, including a Warhammer, in fact several Warhammer Partworks I believe, where they sell minis to go with it. Now you may be wondering, of course, what the hell is a Partwork? It's a term that I see a lot of people mention on forums that they've never heard before. Partworks are essentially magazines where, usually you may have seen them like in a newsagents, where, let's say, the goal is to build a gigantic, or well, about yay big, I don't know, glow-in-the-dark T-Rex, and in the first issue you get the skull of this glow-in-the-dark T-Rex, and the magazine cut that comes with it has all the peripherals, but you're really there for the toy. It is essentially the toy in the cereal box of magazines. In the case of Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer magazine, we get dice, D&D Adventurer dice, in a rather nice tin there, and we get some pretty decent dice. Bit plasticky and cheap, really. I mean, of course, you're not going to get like copper dice or anything like that anytime soon, but they do the job well enough, I think. And I do like the fonts on them as well. Just show that off there. It's probably not very clear on my camera. I do apologise. I imagine I can get some close-ups and such. Do they have? Oh, the 20 is not a dragon's head or anything like that, or like the Dungeons & Dragons ampersand. And yeah, pretty nice stuff, all in all. So in this issue, and I think subsequent issues, if that's the correct word, in issues after this one, every issue will come with a set of dice. So by the end of this 80-issue run, fingers crossed, you will have 80 sets of dice, and they will provide more tins and pouches and so on and so forth. So the dice here we have D4, D6, D10/D100. Oh no, we do actually have a D100 and a D10. We have a D8 and a D12. There's no D18 like I usually get from a number of online shops, but really I don't think the D18 is necessary as far as I'm aware. It doesn't have any place in D&D. You might say, well, it saves you rolling 3d6 in order, whoever does that now, but even then, the lowest number you can get is a 1, not 3. So anyway, yeah, so that's the dice that we got with this issue, the first one. I will show you the other goodies before getting to the magazine. I plan on doing as full a look into this magazine as I possibly can, because I want to demonstrate, not that anyone really cares about this besides me for some reason, because I really want to show all of the content and try and give us good a breakdown as I can. The reason why I bought this magazine actually is because I wanted to. It's aimed at the people like my partner who have never played D&D before and would perhaps like to get into it. And I bought these in the hopes that they may actually be able to help her out in understanding the rules, because the basic rules and Player's Handbook can be quite overwhelming. So it's good that magazines like this can explain it. But you will see the problem with that on the very first page here. For $4.99. We're paying £4.99 to have the basic rules, which are free, explained to us. That's not particularly great, but in issue 2 you will get your set of 7 dice and a velvet pouch, and issue 3 you get a giant D20 die.
It's bigger than that, Chris. It's large.
And you get a die keyring, which I haven't received yet, unless I lost it in the bag. Quite possibly, which is a shame really, but I don't need it. It's okay. I'm here for the magazine more than anything else. So yeah, so if you subscribe through the various means like QR codes and the free post and such, and other things, I did it online, or you can phone a number. You get other things, so like you get sorry, I'll just put that up there. That you get a Dungeon Master screen, you get a binder to store your stuff in, a dice tower even. That dice tower does not look like it can roll dice, but never mind. Yeah, we'll see. I hope that this magazine lives long enough and remains cheap enough for me to actually get that far. And the dice are not included. Interestingly, on the dice tower, it doesn't actually show D&D dice. It shows you basic plain dice, 6-sided dice, and some other sort of splat dice, I think they call them. But you get a binder on the third delivery to store all the magazines. You'll notice that the magazine itself is hole punched along the side here, so that you can put it away in the binder more easily and reference things. And yeah, it seems pretty good. I do particularly like the DM screen there. Hopefully it's not like the one of the Essentials kit, which I wasn't overly fond of. It's a really flimsy cardboard. It's no better than like this, really, if I'm honest. But the information there is really good on the Dungeon Master screen, if they choose to keep the information as it is. So it shows you the conditions, it shows you the different dice, it shows you points of origin for spells, it shows you the actions you can do in combat, creature sizes, all the tables that you could possibly need. I do like Dungeon Master screens. Like, my favourite one is the Waterdeep one, at least for the artwork. But the information on there is really exclusive to Waterdeep, particularly the Dragon Heist Adventure, because that's mostly where that information is going to be applied. We also get other tat as well to look at. This here, of course, being the cover of the monster manual. And so, inside, it actually does a good job of breaking down what is Dungeons and Dragons, what happens within. So let's have a read. I will get to the main magazine soon, but this is all, I guess, necessary in a way to cover. So what is Dungeons and Dragons? At its heart, Dungeons & Dragons is a game played by friends that focuses on storytelling. Everything is your decision. Not really, that depends on the DM and the players, but still. Anyway, I'm being pedantic. From what you look like, true, to how you act, to what happens next. No, that's the DM. Together, you guide your heroes, don't have to be heroes, through quests, battle with deadly foes, engage in courtly intrigue. I like that. I like that they mentioned that. Enact daring rescues, seek out treasure, and much more. Now we're really getting to the heart of what D&D is, at least to me. I shouldn't even have to say that caveat. You know, that's just what it is. Some features are common to every game of D&D. Take a closer look at this legendary fantasy game and find out why millions of players worldwide have stepped into the boots of mighty heroes and sneaky anti-heroes to create their own stories. So you will see here these lovely people here playing the game. I will probably get this scanned in at work and show you the artwork and such. And I do once again apologise for. I don't think I've apologised for the lighting yet. I apologise for the lighting so that I can once again apologise for the lighting. The first thing they point to is the players. Each player embodies the character they have created, deciding their actions and adding to the overall storyline. While the DM sets out what the players see and can interact with, it's up to the players to decide how they respond to these scenarios, making D&D a truly open game where anything can happen. I agree with that, that's perfectly fine. I think that's a good summary of what the players do. And as well, they've got the distinction between a player and a DM. The Dungeon Master, the DM, takes control of the game, working with the players to craft an exciting and memorable story. They control all aspects of the game, from the characters the party meets, to the puzzles they solve and the monsters they battle. The character sheet. Character sheets set out everything from how many hit points a character has and how many spells they can cast, their physical appearance and personality. These help players keep track of how good their characters are at certain skills, so all they have to do is roll the dice and add the relevant number. Again, I think that's a really good breakdown. The dice. One special die, the D20, helps decide if your character succeeds or fails at a task or attack. The unique gameplay of D&D. Rolling dice is not unique to D&D. The D20 is not unique to D&D. Yeah, okay. Means that in fact, I would say as well that because D&D has to be all things to all people, there's very little unique about it, at least it's good. The unique gameplay of D&D means that sometimes the failures are as much fun as the successes. No, I mean, you can have that in other games. Like Doctor Who RPG, for instance, has yes, and or like yes but or no but and no, as its core gameplay. Like Quest as well, really good RPG that I really want to play. Has that sort of style of gameplay where it's like you have like certain success, mild failure, and complete failure. And always remember as well, DMs, that no is a complete sentence. You do not have to go yes and contrary to popular belief, but I'm getting way into that. I do apologise. The remaining die are in the set are mainly used to determine how much damage their attacks deal. Fair enough. Yep. Inside your magazine. Now this is where the lighting's really going to fail me, or rather, kind of prove a point perhaps. Again, all of this will be scanned, but in the meantime, have that. So, inside your magazine, sage advice. This is your step-by-step guide on how to play D&D with simple explanation that make every element easy to understand. So, a bit of a problem here is there is already something called sage advice. It is the lead designers, I think now sole lead designer Jeremy Crawford, basically running like his own like Q&A on Twitter. People come to him with questions, and if it isn't covered in the rules, he adds the question and the answer to the Sage Advice Compendium. So people on Twitter come and ask him questions about the design, and then he adds it to this site so people can refer to it. However, it has had a history of contradictory statements between, I think, former lead designer or rules designer Mike Merles and Jeremy Crawford. So you could ask the same question to both of these people, and they have wildly varying answers, and that's not particularly helpful. But the sage advice here is very basic hints, and we will get into that. That is going to be a bit of a nitpick, or no, a bit of a gripe really throughout the video. Character creation. Our character building options help you craft a truly memorable adventurer. You'll choose from popular fantasy races, iconic classes, and varied background options to build a one-of-a-kind character. I'd like to see them try. The Dungeon Master, often shortened to DM. See, this I like. I really like this. Often short to DM. Whenever I'm on a forum, and I refer to, like, for example, Electronic Arts Hole, I put in brackets EA afterwards. Now, I'll only do that if I'm going to refer to them again in the post. So, I like to say on a forum, in terms of D&D, the Dungeon Master, in brackets DM, and then I will refer to them as the DM later on. Because some people may not know what the DM is. They genuinely look at it and think, what, direct message? I don't know. So yeah, often short to DM. I mean, again, bearing in mind this is made for people who are completely new to D&D, who have never touched a dice before, and it's incredible. That's good. I like that. That's the sort of thing that I want to see. Runs the game in collaboration with the players. Pro tips. Oh, that's going to piss me off. Don't you worry. Help them create a game that builds into a wider storyline and feels suitably epic to those players, and hopefully to themselves. The DM is as much a participant, if not more as a participant, than the players, and should have as much fun or more so than the players. Spellcasting. Magic lives at the very heart of this fantasy world. Which fantasy world? I will give them credit. They do actually use worlds plural later on, but which fantasy world? Because I think it's good that players know that there is more to D&D than just the Forgotten Realms and Faerun. Now, it doesn't have to be Kryn space in Dragonlance, or I think they've called it like Dark Space in Dark Sun, or Dread Space for Dark Sun in the world of Athos, or like, you know, the Ravenloft and whatnot. That people can actually make their own worlds. They can make their worlds and cities and people, and they should be encouraged to do so if they want to make a homebrew setting, because Lord knows that the developers won't. So, combat is the next thing. Our expert advice plunges you into the heart of the action, whether you're swinging a sword, firing it off an attack spell, shoving an opponent to the ground, or flinging a tankard in a bar fight. We've got you covered. I like that. And of course they show the worst defined rules as a picture, the grappling and the shoving page. Oh, good God. I actually hope they do explain and like maybe how to make grappling good. But we will see. Adventure. Every issue will give you a brand new adventure that tests characters' mettle. These exclusive dungeon dives, heroic missions, and dramatic social encounters will push them to their limits. I actually hope so in a way. Especially like later on. But then again, actually, it's quite easy to kill characters at level 1. A critical hit from a goblin in like the Lost Man of Phandelver. The first combat could just kill a wizard. Oh God. That's not fun, or a rogue even. Oh dear. Setting lore. As you venture through the Forgotten Realms and beyond, we'll share details of the incredible locations you can visit, the factions you can join, and the villains who can make this game such a thrill to play. So I think in issue 2 they actually cover Phandalin, and issue 3 the Red Wizards of Thay, my favourite faction. Yeah, so unfortunately issue 1 does not have any sort of setting lore, but that's understandable because the adventure takes place in Phandalin, but you don't really need to explore Phandalin. You're only exploring this very small but nonetheless important and famous part of Phandalin. And yeah, so I think it's good to then have the setting after you've done the adventure. So as you're leaving the tavern, here's now the setting information for Phandalin. Pretty good. And I like as well that they're covering Phandalin as a starter zone, because that is essentially the one in the old starter set, not the new one of Dragons of Storm Peak Isle, I think, and the Essentials kit. Adventure. Oh yeah, so we already read Adventure in the dramatic voice. Adventure. And then, of course, we've got binders for your collection. Don't miss out. Be sure to get your binders to file your D&D Adventurer magazines. Subscribers will automatically be sent binders throughout their collection. That's the opt-out beforehand. Real talk. Okay, that's fine. Oh, binders are priced at £9.99 each. If you subscribe from issues 1 to 4, you will receive a free binder in your third dispatch. Very good. And now here we have your collection. I don't think I'm going to go into this part very much because... sorry, I'm just trying to angle it on the camera. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go hugely into this part here because it's... yeah, it's just more promotional material. Nothing really useful there. And then finally you get the final page. Subscribe today and receive your gifts and whatnot that I didn't receive. So, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3 things. Just a couple of more things to go through now. Very quickly, so... notice to... Dear News Agent, please reserve my copy of Dungeons & Dragons. Oh, please reserve my copy of Dungeons & Dragons. They seem to have forgot the name of the magazine. It's a good job there's no other D&D magazines like Dragon Plus, which has been cancelled and now I think permanently got rid of. Like all the account stuff is now being deleted. And then finally we have the combat rules explained. I will go into this later on, but I think this is like at first it looks like a bit too much. Like look at all this information that you've got to read through. However, they do go into a really important part that I'd like to cover later, the combat example. And that's going to be... I'm going to give high praise to that later on, and you will find out why. And then finally, all that text there. Again, I do appreciate they're trying to break it down, but the fact of the matter is you're trying to break down D&D, which is like a quite rules-heavy game. I've seen so many people say that it's a rules-like game. It isn't, by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, compared to Pathfinder, maybe. That's about it, really, you know. So anyway, we're getting into the core of the magazine. Before I do, you also get a character sheet, and it's a Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer character sheet. I like the idea of that being something of a collector's item. It's not really, is it? Let's be honest. So, now this, as well, the magazine is bound by glue, so the pages may start falling apart as I speak, but as long as I record this, we should be okay. So let's get into the meat of the magazine. I will begin by saying that I absolutely love the artwork for this issue. The problem is, though, is that this is the artwork that we have to put up with for the next 3 issues. I do like it, the idea that the players, the adventurers here, are fighting H.W.D.R.A, a very awesome enemy. But the thing is that like it's just like this one scene, and the adventurers don't seem to be doing all that well. Like one of them's being flung in the air, another one's about to get hit in the melee, another one seems like he's going for a team kill. Yeah, if they're following the adventure advice in this magazine, then they're not doing very well. Now, what I would like to have seen is like this be part of like the first like scene. So like if we like the scene ends here, yeah, with this guy with the spear. But maybe there's more going on this issue, and then more going on this issue. And if you put the pictures together, it's this whole like scene or diorama or something. Diarrhea, more like. Anyway, we get a new and exclusive adventure in every issue. We get expert D&D play tips. Again, doubtful. We get to see the anatomy of a fighter, quite literally, if this one gets their ass handed to them. And, good golly, I've got no sense of direction, I do apologise. Character building options! There we go at the end! And, again, every issue has character building options, so not much there. Let's have a look at the first spread. A nice spread there, I have to say. Not really much of a spread, is it? I'm just using technical jargon. Anyway, welcome to the first issue of Dungeons & Dragons Adventure. Week after week, we'll show you how to play the world's greatest role-playing game. Bit of a nitpick here. I really don't like how Wizards of the Coast require people refer to 5th edition as the world's greatest role-playing game. They've tried so hard to move away from the idea of edition, and they're gonna, I think, finally do it with 1D&D unless they don't, like they did with D&D Next, and I think the backwards compatibility of 4th edition. We'll see how these things go. Yes, which puts you at the very heart of the action. Along the way, we'll introduce you to the various options you can choose to flesh out your characters and shine a light on the world they'll inhabit. We'll even provide the physical elements you need, such as the dice, that will determine their fate, and the tabletop extras that will make the game truly immersive. Enjoy. Now, I certainly hope I will enjoy. Immersive, however, I don't think the Dice Tower is going to make things more immersive for me. There's a quote by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the name there, that goes along the lines of perfection is achieved not when there's nothing left to add, but when there's nothing left to take away. You can pile tokens and counters and chips and chits and dice towers and DM screens and books onto the table, but does it make it more immersive? Not really. It just sort of slows the game down for me. I think a better description of an environment is so much more immersive to me than a dice tower. Dice towers are fun. I like them. They're cool. But to me, they, I think, remove more than they add to the experience, if I'm honest. But we'll see. And I hope that if I do remain subscribed to the magazine, I will get the dice tower and give it a go. Who knows? Maybe my partner and I will be playing D&D, and we can use the dice tower to determine the results. Probably lots of misfortune shall ensue. I don't think a dice tower would have helped poor Emil Cragwalker. Moving swiftly on. The basics, let's play! Once upon a time long ago in a realm called the Midwestern United States. See, I like that. That's very funny. A group of friends who love fantasy storytelling gathered together. They were tired of simply reading tales about magic, monsters, and adventure, and they wanted to play in those worlds. The system they created would forever alter the history of gaming. I quite agree. I think, for all my talk of oh, D&D's not a story game, it's a skirmish game, etc. People wanted to make more than just the dungeon crawl, like a miniatures war game. They also wanted to have fantasy adventure, and that's fine. I think that's totally fine. And so I think that's quite good. And it's even then, it's like, do people really need to know the entire history of D&D, especially the more troublesome moments, especially like Glee Max? No, I don't think we need to mention the murder-suicide in this video. Playing D&D is an exercise in collaborative creation. You and your friends build a shared narrative as you guide your heroes through quests for treasure. Again, you don't have to play heroes. A battle with deadly foes, engage in courtly intrigue, and just repeat everything that was in the previous issue, in the previous little booklet. Enact daring rescues and much more. If you don't have friends interested in playing, I don't have friends at all, really, so that's me buggered. Don't worry, your next gaming group is as close as the nearest game store, online forum, or convention. Again, this is released in the UK. You know how hard it is to find a game in the UK if you're not a DM? If you're a DM, you say, oh, by the way, yeah, I'm hosting a D&D game. You will have floods of requests. People will go all over the place to meet you. But if you're a player, no, you've got to do the travel. You've got to do the legwork. No, thanks. No. If I was to play in person with my current DM, I'd have to go all the way down to Wales. No. I'll stick to Roll20. But yeah, and I think actually this is something that should maybe mention as well, that how do I actually meet people? How do I post an advert? How do I, where should I look? What kind of environment should I run the game? You know, um, that'd be good. Maybe explain what an FLGS is. For those who don't know, it's a friendly local gaming store. That'd be good. That'd be fantastic. That'd be really good advice to have one day. Like telling people, okay, you now know the rules. Where do you find people to play with? You know, and talk about resources like look on the D&D Beyond forums, which is like officially endorsed. Well, I mean, it's owned by Wizards of the Coast now. You know, you can use virtual tabletops again. Maybe even give us a sneak peek as to the one that's going on in 1D&D with Unreal Engine 4, I think. You know, look at all those sort of things. I'm not expecting them to say, oh yeah, go to Patriot Games in wherever, you know. Or like Roll20, but I would like them to just say where you can actually play D&D and how to do it, maybe. So traditionally, you'd all sit around a table, although in today's world, you're as likely to be together on a video chat as you are in the same room. That's really good. I should have I spoke too soon. While each character assumes the role of a single character representing an individual adventurer in the world, good, that they are an adventurer. They have to have a reason to adventure to be in the party. One person takes charge of what those characters do in the game. Every D&D game is run by a dungeon master, also known as the DM. Again, props to actually highlighting that. Not just DM, dungeon master, also known as the DM. I like that. That's good stuff. They serve as the game's referee and storyteller, playing the role of every other inhabitant in the game world and maintaining the setting in which the adventures occur. I think that's fair. Absolutely fair. And page number. So in the bottom right corner here, we have page. You're not going to be able to see it from there, I don't think. No. No, doesn't matter. Point is this is page 1. However, there are going to be multiple pages 1s, and that's because of the different chapters in the book. And the new chapter begins at page 1. So. The adventure begins. Again, very familiar information here. But I do like this. I do like that they're showing these things, illustrating it. So, the adventure begins. Oh, now we've got our first top tip. What does it say? Take your time reading through the magazine at least once before starting to set up your first game. There's lots to take in, but we promise it's worth it. Okay, that's apparently a top tip that was put through focus testing and research and lots of sciencey stuff, and apparently that was the top tip, was it? To read the fucking manual. I mean, actually, you know what? That's the best tip ever. Like, there is someone on the D&D Beyond forums whose signature says, like, you know, talk to your players, talk to your DM, read the fucking manual. It solves 85% of problems. I say about 50% of your problems are solved by talking to people. Another 30%, I'd say 85% of your problems are solved by talking to people. The other 15% are solved by reading the fucking book. It's in there somewhere. Okay, familiarise yourself with it. Although it is a lot to take in. So that's why you need Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer magazine, because if you could actually read and understand how to play the game, you wouldn't need the magazine. And fair props to the people who do need the magazine, because there are a lot of rules in the books, and they do encourage DMs make rulings rather than just following the rules blindly. It doesn't actually tell you how to put that information together, and that's like my key problem with D&D. In fact, quite a few role-playing games, that they still have a lot of difficulty with telling you how to actually put this information onto the table. So, fingers crossed, this magazine will do a lot better. The adventure begins. Player, make sure you read upon the basic rules of the game. Each issue will break those down into easy-to-understand sections. Again, the basic rules, which are free and not hard to find, they're in something called the SRD, the Standard Rules Document, and that's also like what developers can use to make video games. You can make your own homebrew stuff with the SRD. It's basically an open license as long as you have certain things that are appropriate. So, like, as long as you're as long as you're not using like beholders and mind flayers and whatnot, you should be good to make whatever you want for D&D. And of course, you call it the world's greatest role-playing game. You'll also want to put some effort into building a character you'll play. We have plenty of advice on creating a fully realised being in this issue going forward. A fully realised being, not creature, not character, not person, being. Okay. No, honestly, it's just a nitpick, really, just an observation. I also noticed as well, in the background of these people playing, they have a book that isn't out yet, like Shadow of the Dragon Queen for Dragonlance, I think. So anyway. Moving swiftly on, Dungeon Master! You'll want to go one step further than the players and familiarise yourself with the adventure text. D&D Adventure-A in italics will alert you when there's something for your eyes only, as we advise you on how to run a successful game. Find out more about the role of the DM later in this issue. The Adventure. We've created an exclusive adventure to teach you how to play D&D. Everything you need to know is explained and understood just by playing. That's true. Best experience, the best teacher in this game is playing it. Worry about the rules later. Just actually roll some dice, and it will become second nature. You will know how to do it instantly, and it's just repetition really at that point where you learn the process slowly but surely rather. So whether you're an absolute beginner, a long-term player, or just want an easy way to introduce the game to friends and family, join us on our grand adventure, and grand it seems so far. The dice! Top tip again! Each die has a particular function in the game. Some will get used more than others, as you'll discover in the coming weeks. I can't read, I do apologise. But for now, we're giving you a basic guide. Again, not really a top tip. This is just, like, the rules. The top tip is, each die does a thing. They also don't use the die in this picture that are in the tin. These are red with speckled black, and they have gold writing on them. Mine are black and have red writing on. Huh. As you navigate your way through this fantasy world, you'll use a set of dice to determine your actions, if your actions succeed or fail. A standard set of dice includes D20, D12, D10, D8, D6, and D4, with each number representing on how many sides how many sides that particular die has. I think that's really good as well. But they actually explain why it's called that. It's called D6 because it's a 6-sided die. Yeah. There are so many times where people get hung up on this thing of like, well, what does this dice do and what does this dice do? And the answer is, it's just so simple that it's just basically just a rewording of a 6-sided die or two-sided die. That's a coin, John, or like a D4, 4-sided die, etc. So it's really handy. Let's move on. So now we get to see, again, really good. We get to see illustrations of what the dice are. I hit the space bar as I was putting the magazine down. I've got to stop doing this, I really do. D20. So what does this do? Usage. This is the die you'll roll most often. Add the number rolled on a D20 to your skill or attack bonus and hope that the combined number is high enough to succeed. Rolling a 1 on this die, an attack roll, represents a critical fail and that attack always misses. I can't remember if this was actually the case or not. Like I think there is variant rules and optional rules that say you don't have to do this. Crit fumbles. I personally don't like crit fumbles. Like I can understand at like levels 1 to 3 that you're rolling a 1, therefore you misfire a weapon or you swing badly and it flies out of your hand. But when you're getting to higher levels, like a level 20, you're not gonna drop your sword, Otherwise, I think at that point you just say, fuck it, I'm going to tie it to my hand so I can't be disarmed. Dear me. Or I'm going to hit my ally. Yeah. Like, I like the idea of them, especially when enemies can do it. Like, if players can do it, enemies can do it. I think that's a rule that if I were a DM, I would absolutely be using. If you want to do something, great. You want to be a flyer? You want to be an Aarakocra? Great. There are Aarakocra in this world. They can fly, you can fly, but they can fly. And as the DM, I'm God Almighty, and I can make things as powerful and as punishing or as merciful as I want to. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just the dice that are the most neutral arbiter. A 20 represents a critical hit that always finds its mark and deals additional damage. Okay, D12. This is the die you'll roll least often, depending on your class. Larger weapons such as the Great Axe, the Great Axe and Lance, which we'll introduce in a future issue of D&D Adventurer, because of course you will. Roll this die for damage. Spells such as Poison Spray and Witch Bolt. Oh, I don't know Witch Bolt did the D12. That's good. Which will cover as your spellcasters gain levels and expand their spells lists, deal D12 damage. The Barbarian, which will feature as a class option in a future issue, and this is starting to piss me off now. Like, this is the third time in this dice they've said, in a future issue we'll talk about this, in a future issue we'll talk about this, and in a future issue we'll talk about this, for fuck's sake! The Barbarian, which will feature as a character class option in a future issue, rolls a D12 and adds their total hit points when they level up. Nice. I like that they are breaking down the dice, and not literally breaking down the dice, but actually covering the different things that the dice do. A D10, often used to decide how much damage an opponent takes when you hit them with a large weapon, such as a pike, a bolt from a heavy crossbow, or a firebolt. I noticed as well that the spells, like in the SRD and such, are in italics to separate them. So, fighters roll a D10 to add to their total hit. Fighters roll a D10 to add to their total hit point total when they level up. Roll 2D10 to create the result from 1 to 100. A 0 on the first die and an 8 on the second die gives you a result of 0, 8, or just 8. Rolling a 4 and a 3 on the nominated dice provides a result of 43. Rolling 10 twice is particularly good. Sometimes. I think there are actually some spells where 100 has a negative effect. Rolling 10 twice is particularly good, as that represents the highest possible result of 100. The 10 is represented as 0 on some D10 dice. The thing is that they show here a D100. It's not actually a 100-sided dice, but it does show the double digits there. So you've got 10, 70, 60, 30, 50 going anti-clockwise. D8. Often used to describe how much damage an opponent takes when you hit them with a weapon such as a rapier or longsword, a bolt from a light crossbow, or the spell Sacred Flame. Rogues and clerics roll a D8 to their hit point total when they level up. Nice. They're not the only classes, I don't think. I think sorcerers get a D8. I think warlocks do as well, I'm not sure. I can't remember. D6. This dice is most often used to decide how much damage an opponent takes when you hit them with a weapon such as a quarterstaff, hand axe, or mace. An arrow from a short bow. Short bow being two separate words, when in D&D I think it's one. And throughout the book as well they refer to the short bow as one word, short bow. Or the liquid sprayed from an acid splash spell. Wizards roll a d6 to add to their hit point total when they level up. They also don't mention sneak attack damage, which should be mentioned because this book goes into rogues, at least covers them very briefly. I should say as well, when I say short bow separated into two words, like, I'm only making an observation. It's not a criticism really. And again, like, I know how much gets lost in editing, believe me, so I'm not fretting over it. And I don't expect others to either. Like, this is not counted as a mark against the game. D4. Often used to decide how much damage an opponent takes when you hit them with a weapon such as a club or dagger, a missile from a sling, or each dart in a magic missile spell. Coming soon, inspiration and advantage. But not today. Not in this issue that I paid half much for, like $2.99 I think for this one. Which isn't a bad price, but there is a lot of coming soon. There is a lot of in the next issue. It reminds me of the Final Fantasy 8 or 9 strategy guide, where it said, "Oh, to figure this out, go to this website." In a strategy guide telling you how to play the game in a walkthrough, it would say, "Go to this website," because it was really trying to push this online component, which died really quickly. Was just terrible to look at, completely unnavigatable. I don't think even half of it was in English, may have been. And yeah, just telling people to go to a website and enter this code. And Why? Why? I've got the paper here. I'm sorry. I'm ranting. Introduction to character creation, but first a top tip! Top tip! For a quick and easy start, choose from one of our pre-made characters to play with. If you're feeling more adventurous, use the following pages to help you create your very own character. Again, that was a top tip, you know, with a dragon bauble there. That's not a top tip, that's just saying what this is about, you know? To play the game, use the character sheets that you've got. To play the game, make your own character. I think it was in one of the Doom games, or perhaps like a parody of them, of which there are many. There was a loading screen here that said, to stop dying, don't get shot, you know? Or to stop being shot, move. Like, this is what I mean about the top. They've just plastered this here because they needed to, not because it adds anything, not because it's useful. And I get, okay, that I can't erase my biases and memories and experience with the game, but I don't see how anyone looks at this and thinks that's a top tip. That just seems to be insulting their intelligence. And the thing is that I'm really against, and I know I sometimes do it myself, I am guilty of it, I really am against the infantilizing of the D&D player base and new players. New players do not need protecting from spellcasters. They do not need protecting from anything but the champion fighter. Okay? They can handle it. Give them some credit, please. And I say the same to this magazine as well, not just the D&D fanbase, and vice versa. Anyway, before setting off on your adventure, you need to get into character. This is lots of fun, especially for beginners. Whether you're putting your personal stamp on our ready-made party members or creating a unique player character from scratch. To help you understand the process of character building, let's look at how we built the first level fighter, rogue, wizard and cleric characters we've included with D&D Adventurer issue number 1. You'll see the effect of their race. I think that's what to say. You'll see the effect of their race. Although the amount of words and syllables I missed out in this, I can't really criticise them for that. Their race, class and background has on their abilities, and we'll explain why we made the choices we did to help them become more fully rounded characters. That's good. It's not just saying here's a character, here's how to make one. It tells you why you're doing this. There is such a thing in D&D called the quick build options, where basically it says, okay, you want, in order to make a wizard, you want this race, you want these stats, you want this background, and that's it. And that's fine if you just want to make a very quick like Dungeon Bash character. Yeah, I'm just doing this for a one shot, just give me a wizard. Okay, do it that way. And D&D Beyond's quite good for that as well. They just like sort of automate the process really well. That's good. So now we are on to what I think is actually going to be one of my favourite parts of the magazine. Here we are. Again, I really do apologise for like the lighting and such, and like the quality of this. It isn't great. I will hope to get scans in before I put this through editing, because otherwise it's going to be pretty shit if not. So, character descriptions. Now on page 2, as you may have noticed, we're a bit further than page 2 in the magazine, but this is page 2 of character creation. And I imagine in future issues it's not going to be like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way through the 80 issues. So that would be really good. Again, assuming this gets 80 issues done. Anyway, typically, a D&D character starts their adventuring life at first level. Typically, that's good. That is good. 5th edition empowers people to start at higher levels and play the adventures they want to, rather feel like they have to do it like an MMO where you start at level 1, and if you want to get to higher levels, you have to do these things. I have heard tell of tales when people would go to their like wargaming shops and whatnot, and like form up parties there, like as if it's like a looking for group channel, LFG channels. And I say, hey, I'm a druid. I'm a level 10 druid, and I need to be an arch druid. I need some people from this group to help me kill the next arch wizard, so that I can be the arch wizard. And that druid can, so not the archwizard, I could be the archdruid, and they could be demoted. They could be de-leveled to druid, level 10. They get their name, druid. Yeah. and then they could have like one archdruid in the world, which is really cool. But yeah. But it was almost like trading cards. I think it was almost like trading cards. Like your character was like your own trading card or like your own deck, and you love them that way. That was quite cool. I like that. Yeah, if there were more role-playing game clubs, I think there are in like South Yorkshire. There's more and more opening up like geek dens and such. So yeah, who knows? Maybe I will be able to play D&D in first person, rather in person, and perhaps get that experience. Maybe I'll play some OGL games. Is it ORG? Renee? I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So, yes, they may have had a career before, but when it comes to being an adventurer, their inexperience puts them at the lowest rung. So commoners tend to have their stats 10 across the board. We'll get to stats very soon. But adventurers have their stats, like according to standard array, like 15, 14, 13, 15, 14, 13, 10, 15, 14, 13, 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8. So they can have a stat that's lower than the average commoner. But they probably also have considerably more hit points. Anyway, so when a character reaches a set of experience points total, they advance to the next level. Although instead of experience as a guide, or XP as a guide, some DMs use story-based leveling, where characters gain a level following a significant story beat. I like that they mention milestone leveling. It's my preferred way of leveling, but I certainly appreciate the benefits. Excuse me, of attracted flies. I do smell. I do like the idea of like if you're not getting loot, you do get some little tokens called experience points, and you can put those towards your character. I do like systems where like you could just gather and gather and gather XP. And you don't get levels, but you can buy abilities with your XP. Or like to use like an MMO term, like dragon kill points. You can bid with that, so that's quite good. Anyway, gaining a level might see the character learn new features, new spells, and become generally more powerful than they were at the previous levels. It might see them become more generally powerful. I am just nitpicking the language here. I get what they mean. They can continue to gain experience and increase their capabilities all the way up to level 20. D&D 5th edition, I think, only has like one adventure that goes from level 5 to 20. I think that's Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Although you could probably buy plenty of homebrew level 20 adventures. It's widely accepted that people do not play that high. Most people, I think, play up to level 10. I don't know what level my current campaign that I'm playing is going to go up to. I think it was originally intended to maybe go up to 15. So we're halfway, but if we do actually go to 20, holy shit! Like, I've actually taken a character from level 1 to 20, my god! You know? Yeah. And leveling in D&D is quite slow. It's not, like, well, not quite slow. It's actually fine. But compared to, like, video games, yeah, you've got to really work towards it. My god, you can have a character for years! Yeah, fun. Characters might not be experienced adventurers at first level, but they are fully formed as people. Use a detailed description to help bring them to life for the other players at your table. Details such as their hairstyle, clothing, and general attitude show the world who they are, or at least the image that they want everyone to see. I like that. Yeah, so you don't actually, so your character can actually have some secrets on the party. I don't necessarily think players should have secrets on the party, but absolutely player characters should, and I make that distinction. So we have here 4 characters, and I will show you their character sheets towards the end of the session. No, I'll show them soon, I think. So we have Crantor Thranax, the human rogue. Crantor is 32 years old and stands 5 feet and 9 inches tall. He has Caucasian skin and brown eyes with blonde hair, which he often dyes black so it's easier to hide in the shadows in his white shirt and... He dresses in fine clothes when he's mixing with nobility, to put them at ease and make it easier to cut their purse strings. When he's among less well-folk, he dresses down to avoid making his own purse a target. So I like that a lot. So this means that this character has motivation to buy more equipment and make sure as well that they have false identities. and it means taking time to dress and redress and undress and whatnot to hide, and that could be time that they could be spending being ready for an attacker or defending their allies and leaping into battle. But unfortunately, they're getting changed. So, yeah. We have here Irina Eloris, Wood Elf Fighter. Irina is 129 years old. Elves become adults around the age of 100 and can live up to 750 years old. Standing 5 feet 4 inches, she has brown hair, hazel eyes, and copperish skin with traces of green. As a fighter, she's dressed for battle, although her green and brown armour blends into the woodland environments she calls home. It's really good. I like that. H.Y.D.R.A Stormhelm, Hill Dwarf Cleric. I do love me some clerics, I really do. H.Y.D.R.A is 78 years old. Dwarves are considered young until the age of 50, living on average about 350 years. She stands 4 feet 6 inches tall. She has light brown skin, brown eyes, and red hair. She was taken in by a temple of Ilmater, or Ilmater, I think it is, having lived as a street urchin, and now proudly wears that god symbol on her armour and shield, keeping both polished and well maintained. Does she? I don't know. Bearing in mind that this artwork is it's not original, and that's something as well that when there's artwork in this book that I don't recognise, I'm really glad for it. I really do like when they do original artwork for stuff. Please, D&D Adventurer magazine, Hasher Partworks, if you can, get more artists, because this magazine deserves it. I love the artwork, and make sure you pay them well as well, because I get that they've only got a week to make it. But yeah, there's some really good stuff here. It's awesome. Yeah. Anyway, Maravik Farfoot. Farfoot, not Fartfoot. Ha ha ha. A Lightfoot Halfling Wizard. Maravik is 35 years old and stands 3 feet and 2 inches tall. He has tanned skin, hazel eyes, and wavy brown hair that ends in 2 long sideburns. His comfortable wizard robes and trademark pipe set him apart from many of his haughty peers. I really should have checked how to pronounce that word. Haughty, I don't know. Naughty, haughty, and under 40. Ability scores. The 6 ability scores in Dungeons and Dragons provide a quick description of every creature's physical and mental characteristics. Is your character a muscle-bound? Is a character muscle-bound and insightful, brilliant and charming, nimble and hardy? Ability scores define these qualities. But before I get into that, we've got a top tip in the bottom right corner. A character might choose to increase their ability score as they become higher level. Certain artifacts can also boost ability scores. Artifacts. I know of items, magic items. I think artifacts are actually something else entirely. I mean, they are magical items. Like all artifacts are magical items, but not all magical items are artifacts. If that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway. So, one of the first things you'll do when you set about creating a character is divide their ability scores. These 6 boxes on your character sheet are the building blocks of your character and determine what they excel at and what the qualities they lack. So, strength. This measures a character's physical power. It determines how much they can lift and carry, how hard you hit with physical attacks, and aids your ability to resist being forcefully moved. Gear ability for athletic skill checks. Pretty good. Yep, I agree with that. They haven't got into alternate rules yet. I don't think they're going to for a very long time yet, but you can use your strength to intimidate someone. So, for example, a charisma check, you might yell at someone, but an intimidation check might just be you fold your arms and look at them menacingly, And that wasn't very menacing, I appreciate. But yeah, so that might be a strength intimidation check where your muscles bulge or you stare them down. Dexterity. This measures a character's agility and reflexes, balance and hand-eye coordination. It determines how quickly you act in a fight, how difficult you are to hit in light armor, and how well you use missile weapons such as thrown daggers and bows. Not to be confused with thrown bows, which just doesn't work very well. I don't think anyone's tried it, but who knows. Key ability for acrobatics and stealth skill checks. Nice. Constitution. This represents a character's bodily health, stamina, and fitness. It determines your character's maximum number of hit points, which measures their general toughness and how difficult they are to knock down in a fight. Constitution also helps magic users maintain a spell they're concentrating on and helps stop your character from getting drunk or poisoned. Very good. Now it has no key abilities because it has no skills. Constitution is essentially just for like your concentration and hit points. So yeah, really good for barbarians and such. So that's good. Intelligence. This describes how studious and logical a character is. Intelligence is intellect. Mental prowess. A capacity for problem solving and being well versed in lore and knowledge. Key ability for arcana, history, and religion skill checks. Good. Wisdom. This measures your common sense, perception, self-discipline, and empathy. Where intelligence is about knowing, wisdom is about feeling. It determines how well your character notices details, senses danger, and gets a read on other people. Key ability for insight and perception skill checks. Another way of determining the difference between intelligence, because I think that's actually really good that they've explained it quite well there. The way I describe intellect and wisdom is intelligence is knowing that Frankenstein was not the monster. Wisdom is knowing that Frankenstein was the monster. Meaning that intelligence means Frankenstein is the doctor who created the monster, but wisdom says that Dr. Frankenstein was the monster for creating the abomination, or Adam, or whatever his name was in the Prometheus, I think. No, the modern Prometheus in the book. Charisma. This measures a character's force of personality, persuasiveness, and leadership. It determines how confident, commanding, or charming a character is. Lots of alliteration there, I do like it. Characters with high charisma excel in social encounters, which are equally as important as combat situations in D&D. Tell that to the PHB. Charisma isn't always tied to attractiveness, and a charismatic character can be described as being able to hold the attention of a room or rally people behind them with their words, deeds, and actions. Now that's really good. There was a really good article on D&D Beyond where they were saying like how to play a charismatic character. Well, you don't have to actually just have like rousing speeches. You can just be a doer that people find your get up and go energy to be attractive. You taking initiative to be attractive. And as well, I like that they don't say that you don't have to be a pretty character. My character, Komisarka Jusha, she's like hideously scarred and like bones all broken and whatnot. She probably will not have as many limbs ending this adventure as she did going into it. But she is a leader. At least she sees herself as a leader, and she inspires people with her words and her deeds. So she's not physically attractive, but she is very much capable and commands respect and authority. Now this part I'm not looking forward to going into, but this is ability scores and race and whatnot, and there we go. Yeah, so lots to talk about here. So I'm not going to go into all of this, but ability scores and modifiers. The three rolls you'll most often make in the game are the ability check, the saving throw, and the attack roll. All three of these are influenced by a character's 6 ability scores. The higher the ability score, the higher its modifier, and the more accomplished you are in that area. A score of 10 or 11 is around the level of a normal human, but adventurers and many monsters are a cut above average. Adventurers can have scores as high as 20, while monsters and divine beings might have scores as high as 30. Each ability also has a modifier, derived from the score and ranging from -5 for an ability score of 1 to +10 for a score of 30. So it gives you a nice handy chart here on what to reference. Rolling your ability scores. There are a number of methods you can use to create your 6 ability scores. Since we've provided you with the dice in the first issue of D&D Adventurer, we're going to show you how to manually roll those numbers. We'll cover other methods in a future issue. Why don't you cover them now? while we're on the subject of ability scores. I get that you want people to use the dice, that's fine. And it's good encouragement, saying, hey, you know those dice that you've got, get them out, it's time to roll them. You're going to do your first rolls, and you can cook up a character, or more likely cock it up. A lot of things are decided on the roll of a die in Dungeons & Dragons. That element of luck is part of what makes the game so exciting. Rolling dice to determine something as important as the building blocks of your character is the first real taste of the highs and lows that make the game so compelling. In order to create an ability score, find the D6, it's the cube-shaped dice, with a 6 as its highest possible result. You're going to roll this die 4 times and remove the lowest number. Let's do that now. So, on a very uneven surface, if I can use my D&D Adventurer's tin. So that's a 2. That's a 1. That's a 6. So that's 9 total so far, and a 1. So we've got 2 1s. So basically 9 minus 1. So we've got an 8. So that's not too bad. So that's a -1 according to the chart. Very good. So that's a -1 to a stat of my choosing. If I were going for, say, a wizard, I would put that in strength. So, yeah. So that's my strength decided. I've got 8. Unless I've balls that number up. I can't, like, I'm very bad at math. I really am. Mental math is atrocious. The thing is, actually, that D&D has helped me with my math skill. Like, I can work it out no problem, but except then when I probably balls it up. So, yeah. But, yeah, so I rolled 8. Great. So, and you're going to roll this die 4 times and remove the lowest number, add up the 3 highest dice, and make a note of that number. For example, Krantor's player rolls the d6 4 times, landing on a 5, a 6, and another 5, and a 1. Since we're only counting the highest 3 dice, he ignores the 1 and records a total of 16, the lucky bastard. Repeat this step until you have 6 numbers, and then place those numbers into the 6 ability score boxes as pictured on the previous page, deciding what your character's strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. I think that's all really good. I do actually think that they explain it really well, and they give you an example. That's fantastic. That's exactly what this sort of thing needs. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that. Role-playing your ability scores. Ability scores define a creature's weaknesses as well as their assets. While it's important to think about your best qualities, taking note of your lowest ability score can also help you roleplay your character. For example, a character with low intelligence might take offense quickly if they think, rightly or wrongly, that someone is talking down to them, or a character with low dexterity might have suffered a wound during their time as a soldier that's left them with a limp. So, I was actually thinking of, like, volunteering to take hits to, like, my charisma each time I go unconscious because it leaves, like, a scar. But perhaps it might help with intimidation, but provide me a disadvantage with persuasion and even deception, that people aren't really going to believe me. Or maybe they might, depending on, like, how villainous I look. Perhaps in the world of the land they still practice phrenology. But yeah, it's sometimes that's good. I remember when I was first playing D&D, I was on a server called Outroll. They actually said to us, like, you can have like a 3 in strength, and we won't expect you to play a weakling. You can look as you can roleplay it however you like, but your stats are just purely for mechanical purposes. So it's an option for those who want it. But now, for the top tip. You can roll the provided 4d6 4 times. You can roll the provided d6 4 times to create each stat, or you can find 3 other d6s and roll them all together to create each ability score. Many classic board games such as Ludo, Monopoly, and Yahtzee use d6. That's fine. You don't have to use numbered ones. You can have ones with pips on them, which is a typical 6-sided die. I like that. Another top tip I would give for rolling dice is when you roll your dice to attack, roll the attack dice and the damage dice at the same time, so it saves you waiting. Even if you miss, fine. Okay, as a new player that might be a bit confusing, like, okay, do I need to add this other dice and whatnot? Forget it. But for more experienced players, it cuts down time because you're just shaking the dice. And so we have character creation examples, which I think there's something here that I objected to actually. But we will we'll read this. So, Each character class suggests at least 2 ability score boxes it would be beneficial to place high numbers in. This makes your character proficient in the things they are trained in and will use most frequently. For example, if a wizard has high intelligence, it's harder to resist their spells. A racial bonus is also added to certain ability scores. See the following section on race for further details on that. So we'll just use a couple of details here. So, Irina Aloris, Wood Elf Fighter. Fighters favour either strength or dexterity, depending on if they focus on melee weapons or archery finesse weapons, as well as constitution to give them their maximum hit points. Irina's rolls allowed us to place a 17 in dexterity and a 16 in constitution, giving her a healthy +3 bonus in both. Nice. So the character sheets that we have provided aren't using standard array. They are using rolled stats, which is interesting. But yeah, cool. So Krantor Thanax, human rogue. Rogues favour dexterity for their attacks, movement, and either intelligence to accelerate investigation or charisma to emphasise deception and social interaction. Since Krantor gets a +1 to each ability score across the board as his racial bonus for being a human, none of his numbers are below 10, avoiding any minus modifiers. His dexterity is also an impressive 18 in total, +4, while his charisma is 15, +2. So you get the idea for the others. And so we are now onto the subject of race in D&D. I'm going to just pause the recording so I don't balls up any further. So now that I can press the spacebar safely, let's resume. The traits developed by your ancestors provide you with abilities that can aid you as an adventurer. At first level, you choose a variety of aspects, including your ability scores, race, class, and background. You can really tell at this point they're starting to just work to a word count. Each of these choices allow you to create many different types of character and helps paint a picture of your character's origin. Now, this is where we actually get into the race stuff. In particular, your race offers a number of abilities that set your character apart from their fellow party members. These racial traits can become a major factor in determining how your character responds to certain situations and can help them navigate their new life as an adventurer. For example, Irina and H.Y.D.R.A's races have both developed dark vision, but Krantor and Merovik's haven't. The elf and dwarf would have no problem operating in an underground dungeon or darkened forest, while the human and halfling would need to use a light source to navigate those environments. Similarly, Krantor is tall with long strides and his base walking speed is 30 feet, the same as all humans. However, halflings are smaller and therefore can't cover the same distance as quickly, giving Merovik a base walking speed of 25. These racial traits can also help add further colour to your character. For example, as a fighter, Irina can use most weapons, but we leaned into her elf weapon training to make the longbow her weapon of choice. We also decided that H.Y.D.R.A's tool proficiencies would be with brewer supplies, making her the person who brews the beer for her temple. On the following page, we've included the following racial traits. We've included the racial traits enjoyed by every wood elf, human, hill dwarf, and Lightfoot halfling. You can use these to create your own character, or we'll be highlighting the abilities of other races in future issues. Sounds phenomenal. And so we have here the origin story. Every D&D race gets a trait called Ability Score Increase. This represents a traditional quality seen in adventurers of this race. For example, if you're a dwarf, your constitution increases by 2, because dwarven heroes in D&D are often exceptionally tough. Or if you're an elf, your dexterity increases by 2, because you're typically agile and have great balance. Now, something I want to say here is actually, this is really good because it's saying typically a lot. And this is because D&D is trying to move away from stereotypes and all manner of things that have plagued D&D's history. And still, in a way, still do. But they're moving away from it, and that's good. It is progress. So, anyway, moving on. So, we've listed the bonuses for a human, wood elf, hill dwarf, and lightfoot halfling below. You can use those bonuses to help you create your own character with one of those races. We've also listed the set of each traits. There's a set of traits each of those races is known for, so you'll know if your character has an ability such as dark vision, 2 words, or if they have proficiency in certain combat techniques. These are featured in the features and traits section at the bottom right of the first page of the character sheet, so they're easy to refer back to. So, if I take one of the character sheets, if I take one of the character sheets, I do apologise. So on here, for instance, it will be other proficiencies, nope, and languages there, and other stuff here as well. I apologise for lack of focus. Again, I will get these scanned in, and I'm even going to get them laminated as well. I will get the character sheets laminated so that we can use like marker pens on them and reuse them, because I think these characters are going to be ones that I may be using for one-shots in the future. So, the bottom right, so they're easy to refer to. Yeah, at the bottom right of the first page of the character sheet, super. And now we have a top tip! Top tip! 2 of our ready-made characters use optional ability score rules from the D&D sourcebook, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which we'll discuss in a future fucking issue! So, I think this is like the most objectionable part of the magazine. They are referring now to a rule book that basically was like the light refresh, like the light reboot of 5e, with Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So basically, dwarves don't get a +2 to Constitution because they're dwarves. They can get a +2 to Constitution, or Wisdom, or Intelligence, or Strength, because every race can now either get +2 and +1 to any stat of their choosing, or they can get a +1 to 3 stats. Now the thing is that what I don't like about this is that they're basically using rules for a book that you have to pay for, in addition to the book you have to pay for. Like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is DLC for your DLC. You can play D&D without the PHB, without the DMG. Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual. But the Player's Handbook offers you significantly more character options and such. And so does Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and Xanathar's Guide to Everything. And they're taking rules from a book that is a supplement to the Player's Handbook, one of the core books, but still not required to play D&D. So I don't like that they're doing that. I really do get that they want to try and cover so many bases, but the thing is that the magazine is already missing quite a few things as is. So going into Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, like, doing things like this is many issues into the future, when there's no more free content that you could possibly cover in the basic rules. Now we have to get into Tasha's. Okay, fine. But, like, at least tell me what the rules are, you know? In fact, they might do that. They might actually say, oh yeah, these are the rules we got from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Let's find out. So, I am going to have a look very quickly. Yes, I think actually... So I don't think Hill Dwarves get a +2 to Constitution and Wisdom. I think they used to get +2 to Constitution and +2 to Strength. Or some other stat. They get a +2 to Constitution. I can't remember. But yeah, so the Hill Dwarf gets +2 to Constitution and +2 to Wisdom. So +1 to Wisdom. The same with Irene, except instead of Constitution she gets Dexterity. So yeah. So it goes into the racial traits. I'll just cover a couple of these again. So Crantor Thranrax, I can't stand that name, is a human rogue. So humans are the most adaptable people among the common races. They live fully in the present, making them well suited to the adventuring life, but also plan for the future, striving to leave a lasting legacy. What they lack in abilities such as dark vision and luck, they make up for in their own overall competence. As a human, Crantor enjoys the following racial benefits: speed. Crantor's base walking speed is 30 feet. His size is medium. He gets an ability score increase of 1 for all ability scores or stats, and his languages. He can speak, read, and write common and 1 extra language of his choice. Very nice. Meravik Farfoot, Lightfoot Halfling. As a Lightfoot Halfling, Meravik enjoys the following racial benefits. It doesn't actually give you any flavor text like the human. In fact, none of the other races get that, which is a bit disappointing, but still. His base walking speed is 25 feet. His size is small. He gets halfling nimbleness, meaning he can move through any creature's space if it is a size larger than him. Lucky. When Meravik rolls a 1 on the d20 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, he can re-roll the die and must use the new roll. Brave. He has advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Naturally stealthy. Meravik can attempt to hide even when he is obscured only by a creature that is 1 size larger than him. And languages. He can speak, read, and write common and halfling. And there are a few other things as well, but yeah, I can't see anything else about those Tasha's rules, but never mind. So now we're going into the character class page on the right. So yeah, I'm so sorry about the lighting and all the presentation. I will have this stuff scanned in. I must get it scanned in to show you guys. And hopefully this is protected under fair use, like it is transformative. That even though I am reading it word for word, it is still like a critique, so fingers crossed. So, choosing your career helps establish your role within the party, but will your day job define who you are, or can you be more than what can you be more than the deeds you perform? You should now begin to see the potential of bringing a Dungeons & Dragons character to life. Like an actor, I'm not an actor and you're not a director, you'll use the pieces that make them who they are to see the world through their eyes. Feel their excitement as your decisions impact the story you're telling. As you slowly start to see the world through their eyes, you'll feel the excitement and decisions impact the story you're telling. Now, this is true. I am not really that big on role-playing, but in this current campaign, I am really feeling it. I love roleplay now, and when I've got the energy for it, of course. We've already seen how a character's race provides them all the abilities to make them unique. Choosing a character's class is like choosing their career in the fantasy world. It's another major life decision that helps you tell you who they are, while also giving them a role to play within the party. This is one of the few times where I've actually seen a role-playing game is where you play a role, and it actually isn't a shit argument. Well done, D&D Adventurer magazine. And while each character class has a standard role it performs, don't push it. It's up to you how the character interprets that. Not every fighter is heroic. Not every cleric healer is virtuous. I would have just said not every cleric is a healer. That would have been so much better, but unfortunately, our Hill Dwarf cleric is of the light domain. More on that soon. And not every rogue steals for personal gain. Doubtful. Press X to doubt. On the following page, we highlight the character class selections made by our 4 ready-made characters. You can use these same options to create your own characters, and we'll highlight further options in future issues. I'm sure you will. When it comes to adding these options to the character sheet, this is where you list them. Same with throws. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, so it's actually telling you how to use the character sheet and add the information to it, and where you can find it on the pre-made ones. That's really good. Well done, guys. I like that. I really do like that. So, Crantor no, let's use a different character. In fact, this is actually a really good opportunity. H.Y.D.R.A Stormhelm, because she gets her class features at level 1, is a Hill Dwarf cleric. As a cleric, H.Y.D.R.A Stormhelm enjoys the following benefits. Armor and weapons. H.Y.D.R.A can use light armor, medium armor, simple weapons, and shields. She is proficient in wisdom and charisma saving throws. She can choose 2 skills to be proficient in, from history, insight, medicine, persuasion, and religion. Her divine domain is, H.Y.D.R.A chooses 1 cleric domain related to her deity, from knowledge, life, light, nature, tempest, trickery, or war. She chose the life domain as she worships Ilmater, who I think is like a punished god. He's in chains and his followers flagellate themselves and whatnot so that they bear the pain so other people don't have to, which I think is quite good actually for a life cleric. I think that makes sense. Bonus proficiency. She gains proficiency with heavy armor as a life domain cleric. Disciple of Life. Healing spells cast by life domain clerics are also more effective. Whenever she uses a spell to restore hit points, the target regains additional hit points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. Nice. Spellcasting. As a conduit for divine power, she can cast cleric spells. She knows 3 cantrips and 4 first level spells, as well as 2 other first level spells. She is always prepared as a life domain cleric. Bless and cure wounds. Awesome. Who else can we look at? Who else is interesting? It's tough between Crantor and Irina. I haven't really covered Irina much, so I'll talk about her. So she is an elven fighter. As a fighter, Irina Eloris enjoys the following benefits. We're almost done, gang. We're almost done with character creation. Armor and weapons, so she can use all weapons and armor and shields and whatnot. Saving throws, strength and constitution. She can be proficient in the following skills: acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and survival. She can use second wind to restore her. She can use a bonus action to regain 1d10 plus 1 HP. Nice. Holy shit, that's good. Fighting style. Irina also adopts a particular fighting style as her speciality. Now, this part I particularly like. Since she uses a longbow as a primary weapon, we've chosen archery. She gains a +2 bonus to attack rolls made with ranged weapons. The other choices are, so it's not just saying, we've done this, this is the character, fuck you, we're doing it for you. They actually say, okay, and here's the other options. Defense, +1 to AC while wearing armor. Dueling, 1+2 armor class, shortened to AC. Right, you've already said the word AC once. You said it in defense. Defense, +1 to AC while wearing armor. Dueling, +1 to armor class, shortened to AC. Why wasn't that above? I don't know. Anyway, great weapon fighting. Reroll a 1 or 2 on a damage die for two-handed attack. Protection. Use your reaction to impose disadvantage on an attack within 5 feet using your shield. Nice. 2 weapon fighting. Add your ability modifier to the damage of the second attack. Nice. So some really good information there that really helps out. I like that a lot. Top tip! When a character is proficient in something, they add their proficiency bonus to it. At first level, this is +2. Not really much of a tip, it is just the rules, but good to have a reminder. So, when you see that this character is, so let's say, okay, so I'm Irina and I choose acrobatics and history. I get to add +2 to a d20 roll. Nice, not including any other modifiers. I don't know, moving on. So, I'm showing up my own ineptitude at the game. So, a little bit of artwork there from the PHP. Although I think that was actually cut off a bit, and we don't see the goblins there, so that's quite cool. So, background equipment. There's not much to go into here. Yeah, it just tells you what background equipment you can choose, and it tells you what it shows you what the characters chose as well. I really like this. So, cleric. No, let's use Meraphix, the wizards, as an example. So a wizard automatically has a spell book. They also choose from the following equipment: a quarterstaff or dagger, a component pouch or arcane focus, a scholar's pack, or an explorer's pack. So yeah, that's quite good. It also doesn't say that you can alternatively. Yeah, it also says like it doesn't say like, oh, by the way, you can just choose to take gold instead. Just roll up the gold and then you can spend it whatever you want. But starting equipment is a good way of doing that. So like, rather than just doing that, you say, okay, well, here's like the very basic stuff that your character would start out with. Take it or leave it. And also as well, I do like that towards the right it says what's in the packs. So a burglar's pack, which the rogue has, it contains a backpack, a bag of 1,000 ball bearings, 10 feet of string, a bell, 5 candles, a crowbar, a hammer, 10 pitons or pythons, hooded lantern, 2 flasks of oil, 5 days worth of rations, tinderbox, water skin, 50 feet of hempen rope. Really cool stuff there. So this is all the stuff that your characters may start with or choose to have, and yeah, I think it's good because it's alright just saying, oh, they get a burglar's pack. Well, what does that mean? What do I actually get in it? Is it in the basic rules? It's better to just have it here while we're looking at it. So that's really good. And so now we're going from then we're going into background. Not much to say here. So we decide on what they did before they became an adventurer to help fill their life story. So I'm just going to read a couple of background features here. There's one that I like and one that I don't like. In fact, there's 2 here that I don't like, but I'll get into that now. So Irina Aloris has the Outlander background. So Irina grew up far from civilization, wandering as a guide. The wilderness is in her blood, and even in places where she doesn't know the specific features of the terrain, she knows the ways of the wild. Often considered rude and uncouth amongst civilized folk, Outlanders have little respect for the niceties of civil life. This background provides her with the following abilities and items, so she is automatically proficient in athletics and survival. She gets a proficiency in one type of musical instrument, and she chose pan flute. She speaks one language of her choice. She chose to speak Orcish. Equipment: a star for hunting trap, a trophy from an animal she killed, a set of wanderer's clothes, and a pouch containing 10,000 gold is her standing equipment. And she also has the wanderer feature. So Irina has an excellent memory for maps and geography, and can always recall the general layout and terrain, settlements and other features around her. She can find food and water for herself and 5 other people each day, provided the land offers berries, small game, and water. So that's a really useful one that kind of negates the need for food, like rations and needing to use spell slots to create food and water. That's bland but edible and filling. There are ways to counter it, but I'm not going to go to that. I've already wasted enough time, bless us. So yeah. So now it does actually say here that every background as well suggests a number of personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws to help you tell you what your character is. And as well, you can make up your own personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws to truly personalise your character. You can make up your own backgrounds and features and mix and match them all you like. The ones in the PHB are essentially examples. You do not have to use those ones. It's really like D&D Beyond that makes people think that these are the only backgrounds and you must use them. No, you can homebrew. You can do a lot with them and make up your own backgrounds, provided, of course, you've cleared it with the DM. That's rule 0. The DM is the God Almighty. They decide everything, So, and now we're going to... Oh, yeah, sorry, and the Sage background as well. Oh, Acolyte. Yeah, let's do Acolyte. So, skill proficiencies, Insight, Religion, 2 languages of their choice, Elvish and Halfling, to better understand the members of the party, because every character in D&D basically speaks Common. They can read, speak, and write Common. So yes, she's trying to understand the language of the other two. And I think she already knows... Does she already know Dwarvish by default? Let's have a look. That's Cleric. I should have actually said this before. Yes, she can speak, write, and Common. She can speak, read, and write Common and Dwarvish. So now she understands every language in the party, including her own racial language of Dwarvish. Nice. That's very clever. So, as a cleric with the acolyte background, she has chosen the shelter of the faithful feature. As an acolyte, H.Y.D.R.A commands the respect to those who share her faith and can perform religious ceremonies. She and her adventuring companions can expect to receive free healing and care at a temple of the Shrine of Il-Martyr. She also has a residence in a specific temple. While near this temple, she can call upon the priest for assistance with non-hazardous tasks if she remains in good standing with them. The reason why I object to this background, it's nothing to do with the magazine, it is D&D as a whole, is it's not very good. If you're a priest, you would expect to get help from the temple, especially a temple of your god. Maybe less so a god of a different god but of the same alignment, or something like that. But still, you'd still expect to find fucking help, wouldn't you? It's or sage, like Merevik Farfoot. So he's a researcher. When Merevik attempts to learn or recall a piece of lore, if he does not know the information, he often knows where and from whom he can obtain it. So basically, if you don't have the Sage background, you can't read. You can't use a fucking library. You don't know how to index. Mind you, most people don't know how to. But yeah, it's silly stuff, really. Although, in fairness, it does say, the DM might rule that unearthing the knowledge requires an adventure, or that it simply cannot be found. That's fine. But some of the background features are pretty crap. There's somewhere it's you know what, that makes sense, that's fine. But sometimes it's I don't need a background feature for this. This is just rubbish, So, anyway, so now we're going to get into the class of the fighter. Yes, woohoo, awesome stuff. Now I'm going to pause here again, just so I can have a drink and let my throat not be so sore, and continue talking, because we are, I think, over halfway done now. Hey! This is going to be a pain to edit, this really is. Fighter! Gladiators, archers, street fighters, swashbucklers. Now, there's already a rogue subclass called the swashbuckler, and here we're saying that, oh yeah, fighters, they can do that too. Okay. Mercenaries, militia, and knights all fall within the sphere of fighter. Dungeons and Dragons' most diverse and customizable class. I wanted to object to that when I was first reading this, and I thought, actually, no, that seems fine. Actually, there are few classes quite as customizable as the fighter. Like people say they're boring and generic. I say that they are tofu. That you, on its own, not very impressive, but you add the flavor to it, and you can make something brilliant out of it. Yeah. Like, a human fighter can have significantly better stuff going for them. I mean, Christ, look at human fighters in history, you know? I don't know, King Arthur, for an example, you know? That's pretty interesting. I'd even say perhaps even Genghis Khan is a fighter in his own way, you know? Interesting chap, you know? And in a fantasy world, even that's pretty cool, you know? So, pick up any weapon, don any armor, and get ready to fight! A human in clanging plate armor holds a shield before her as she runs towards the masked goblins. An elf behind her, clad in studded leather armor, peppers the goblins with arrows loosed from his exquisite bow. The half-orc nearby shouts orders, helping the two combatants coordinate their assault to the best advantage. This is all flavor text. A dwarf in chainmail interposes a shield between the ogre's club and his companion, knocking the deadly blow aside. His companion, a half-elf in scale armor, swings two scimitars in a blinding whirl as she circles the ogre, looking for a blind spot in its defences. A gladiator fights for sport in arena, a master with his trident and net, skilled at toppling foes and moving around them for the crowd's delight and his own tactical advantage. His opponent's sword flares with blue light in an instant before she sends lightning flashing forth to smite him. All these heroes, again, not heroes, they can just be adventurers. All these heroes are fighters, perhaps the most diverse class of characters in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Questing knights, conquering overlords, royal champions, elite foot soldiers, hardened mercenaries and bandit kings all share an unparalleled mastery with weapons and armor, and a thorough knowledge of the skills of combat. Pretty good. Really inspiring text, I have to say. Like, I like the flavor text that they have in the books, in like the PHP and whatnot for the different classes. It does evoke a lot of interesting imagery, and it's like, yeah, that's actually really cool. That's what I want to do. It doesn't just tell you the mechanics; it actually has the fluff that helps you decide. You know what, that I can actually work with that. I've got a class fantasy for that. And at the bottom they have in a blue box the fighter overview. I also just noticed as well the artists are credited. Eric Belial and Lars Grant West. Nice. Good on you for crediting the artists. Even if the artwork is from other books, it's still nice to actually see that they're getting credit and hopefully the royalties they deserve. As a fighter, you're tough, resilient, and well acquainted with death, both meeting it out and staring at it defiantly in the face. Glean inspiration from a diverse range of fictional and mythical characters. Now, this I really like. This is amazing. Such as Legolas or Gimli from The Lord of the Rings. Not Aragorn, because he's a ranger. And Natasha Romanoff from Marvel's Black Widow. I'm not objecting to that, I just don't know who Natasha Romanoff is. Like Black Widow, like I thought she was like an assassin, like a rogue, or the Roman demigod Hercules. I think that's fine. Yeah, pretty good. Whether you fight on the front line or at range, armed with steel or spells, you forge your own path, deciding who to defend and who to slay. That is awesome. I like that. That's got me excited. Like reading this before has me like I actually want to play a fighter. I really do. My current latest obsession is psionics, so I'd love to be like a psi warrior fighter. So the fighter hours are well-rounded specialists. Fighters learn the basics of all combat styles. Every fighter can swing an axe, fence with a rapier, wield a long sword, use a bow, and even trap foes with a net with some degree of skill. Yeah, there's some really cool nets. I love nets in D&D. Never used them really, but I like the idea. And boomerangs as well. There's boomerangs, there's blowguns, there's all sorts of stuff that you'd think would be folded into other weapons, but have mercifully not been folded into other weapons. Because that's yeah, it's cool. I like that. I still like this unique weapons. So Anyway, so likewise, a fighter is adept with shields and every form of armor. Beyond that basic degree of familiarity, each fighter specializes in a certain style of combat. Some concentrate on archery, others fighting with two weapons at once, while some mix magic with their martial training. Some is the operative word here. As they gain experience to sharpen their skills, a fighter can specialize further. Champions hone their physical power to deal devastating blows. It's hard to sell the champion fighter, it really is, so I know what I mean. Battle masters employ martial techniques and skills passed down through generations. Eldritch knights combine battle prowess with magical techniques. Not every member of the city watch, the village militia, or the Queen's army is a fighter. Most of these troops have only the most basic combat skills. Veteran soldiers, military officers, trained bodyguards, knights, and similar figures are fighters. Some fighters feel drawn to use their skills for adventuring. The dungeon delving and monster slaying is not all that different from the life of a fighter. There are greater risks, perhaps, but also much greater rewards. Few in the City Watch ever have the opportunity to discover legendary weapons. That's really good. Like it's really good for giving you a hook as to why your character is adventuring. Like, what are they doing outside of this sphere? They could just stay comfortably in the army, but perhaps they want to get a bit more as a mercenary. Perhaps they want to go actually doing some good beyond the bureaucracy and the red tape of the City Watch. And yeah, that's good. I like that. That's really good. Something here goes even further, reasons worth fighting for. As you build your fighter, think about why you fight and where you are trained for combat. This is really good. This is exactly the kind of thing that I want to see in the magazine. Think about why you fight and where you were trained for combat. What sets you apart from the other countless mundane warriors around you? Were you formerly trained in a noble's army? Maybe you studied at a war academy, learning tactics and military history? Or are you self-taught, unpolished but well-tested, a diamond in the rough? Did you take up the sword to escape life on the farm or defend it? Perhaps you're a champion pledging your blade to the gallant causes, like a paladin, or a mercenary who cares only for gold, or a noble on the run from assassins. No two fighters' stories are the same. This I really like. I really like that idea. Yeah, giving information, giving reasons, especially for the fighter who gets a lot of bad rap for being fairly generic. And like just boring. Yeah, I'm glad of that. And here we see a rather awesome looking human fighter, at least human-ish fighter. Could be a half-elf for all I know, or a changeling. But yeah, I think that art's from Dragonlance as well, a book that's not yet out. So if it is, awesome. Like, it looks cool. But if it's original, nice. The artists there, I believe, are John Stantco and Darken, or Darken. And now we're on to the Dungeon Masters bit. The DM brings the game of Dungeons and Dragons to life so that the players can interact with the world and its communities and creatures. Our guide to being a great Dungeon Master starts here. I hope it does, because I actually want to DM. Like, if I DM for anyone, it'll be my partner. But yeah, so this would be a really interesting look. And of course, we get a DM top tip. I can't read it though. I'm only a player. Oh no! And I just caught what it says NPC. This is gonna be an interesting top tip. Any character in the game that isn't controlled by one of the players is called a non-player character, usually shortened to NPC. Good. I like that. As a DM, try to prepare a short description and one-sentence motivation for all NPCs your characters will meet. That's actually really good. That's brilliant. And I think as well, like, the advice specifically is good. Like, instead of just having like loads of stat blocks and backstory and whatnot, one sentence. Why are they talking? Like, if the adventurers talk to them, approach them, what information do they give and why? That's it. That's all they need. You know, and improv from there. You don't. Not every character needs to have loads of backstory. You don't need to over prepare, which I would probably do. I think that's the reason why I stopped. In fact, no, it is the reason why I stopped writing the City and Not campaign idea, because over preparation. It was just way too easy to just add more and more to it that was just completely irrelevant. So yeah, good advice. Like, really good advice. I will just get this page done, and then I will pause, because I want to focus on the rest. So, everything within the world of, everything within the game of D&D that isn't a player character is controlled by the DM, from monsters and traps to major cities and the world's politics. When the players choose a course of action while interacting with that world, it's the DM's responsibility to act as referee and decide if that action succeeds or fails. That result may affect what's happening right now on a small scale, or it might have ripples that will have consequences for a whole society or continent. I really like that. That's really good. Acting the part. Since players will interact with other characters in this world, from merchants and innkeepers to monsters and enemies, it's the Dungeon Master's job to bring those all to life. To put it simply, if the players are the main characters of the movie, they're not. They're playing a tabletop role-playing game. The Dungeon Master plays every minor character they encounter. Fine, fair enough. For example, when the party encounters John Lowbutton, enunciate John, carrying inside the privy, see Adventure 1, page 3, spoilers by the way, the DM plays the part of John. If that sounds scary, don't worry. This can seem like the most daunting part of D&D to new DMs, particularly if they're not used to performing. Just relax, and remember that everyone's here to have fun. You don't have to be a winning... Now, this I particularly like. You don't have to be winning Oscars or authoring novels to be a great DM. It's more important that everyone at the table is enjoying themselves, you included. This advice is not said enough. Your joy is just important as everyone else is there. If you as a DM are not enjoying it, no D&D is better than bad D&D. I know that's overly prescribed, it really is, to the point of malpractice, but yeah, it's like, if you're not having fun, stop. Like, I've been an arsehole to my DMs before. It's not fun. Don't do it. Otherwise the game finishes and nobody else can play. It's not just that you get kicked from the table, it's like, I may not DM for anyone else ever again. And that's not good. We don't want that situation. We've already got a few DMs as is. Yeah. Your fun is just as important if you're a DM. Know that now. If you're feeling confident to use different character voices for your NPCs, this sets the tone for your game and can help your players to experiment further with their own characters. I agree. In the Lost Man of Phandelver game that I did session recaps on, we had a character, Tristan, and our DM put on a French accent, and we loved it because it was bad. And me, I got into doing character accents, like the voice of Gorvel the Grimhammer, cleric of the grave, by building up trust in the group and confidence, and slowly but surely I got there. And when I actually have a chance to open mouth and speak, I may do. And and who knows? Like, maybe if I do ever play my main character's my current character's mother, and perhaps even see if a few secrets of hers are canon, like being an aberrant mind sorcerer, then I don't know, perhaps I might play Kabumshka Lost Cows and do the voice for her, yes? But yeah. And also as well, my DM has actually invited me to play the voice of Alan the Azer, the Yorkshire primordial who lives in the forge. So, yeah. Do you take me for a wassock? Yeah. So one day, perhaps if because he can't do a Yorkshire accent, bless him, he does try. Usually taking the piss out of me at the same time, but unconsciously as well. But yeah, if I can do the voice. If I could be invited to a game to do the voice, that'd be brilliant. That'd be great for my voice acting career prospects. So as a DM, it's your job to encourage them to roleplay. Not really. No, this I disagree with. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. If you want to, great. But you don't have to roleplay. Games can have varying degrees of roleplay, combat, exploration. Some people want escape rooms, some people want social intrigue, some people want skirmish gameplay. Me, I like exploration and dungeons. I don't really need the court play, but I mean, for this character that I'm playing, I do. But yeah, the whole politicking thing. She is a political officer, hence why she kind of needs the politics and social roleplay. But yeah, there are other systems you can play if you like that really excel at it. Like one system I really want to play is Blue Rose, an OGL like 3.5 D&D game that focuses on like romantic fantasy, like high romantic fantasy, and lots of social politics there. Not too much combat. I would love to see it as a video game. God, that'd be brilliant. I think they made a second edition as well. I must get that. I think it was successfully backed on Kickstarter. Moving on. So yeah, give them plenty of opportunities to get to know their characters and reward strong role-playing choices with inspiration, an in-game bonus that allows them to re-roll a bad roll amongst other options. We'll explain the concept of inspiration further fully in another issue. Right, so you've just talked about it. You've talked about it enough to piss me off. In fact, if you just didn't mention inspiration at all, it would have been fine. What I would have said, perhaps, is like reward roleplay by giving the players information. Like give them extra information, because they're role playing and they're asking specific questions in character. They might get more specific information. Yeah. Or give them a chance to get advantage on a charisma check. Because again, they're providing a good argument and justified their persuasion roll or something like that. Now, roll that die. I would have preferred roll them bones, but never mind. Most actions in the game are resolved by rolling a 20-sided die, also known as a d20. A player rolls a d20 and adds the relevant skill bonuses listed on their character sheet, then determines the outcome based on the target number calculated by the DM. This is good. This is good because like there was somewhere that they were talking about DC or difficulty class. Like I think it was actually in the dice section, and it was like, well, how do we know if it succeeds or fails? Oh, it was something like you have to hope that the roll succeeds. Let me have a look. Was it? It's alright. I'll find this. Oh yeah. So on the D20 page on Sage Advice page 2. A d20. Add the number rolled on a d20 to your skill or attack bonus and hope that the combined number is high enough to succeed. Hope? Or, well, how do you hope? Well, how do you know if it's high enough or not? Because, quick tangent here, like, my partner once asked me, like, out of the blue, like, we were talking about D&D, and she said, is, like, rolling a 15 good? And I'd say, and I had to say, well, it depends entirely on what it is you're trying to do. If you're trying to pick a log that's, like, fairly rusted and, you know, brittle, yeah, it's like that's probably good. You're going to break the lock. If it's like a really, if you're trying to break into a massive bank vault and you roll a 15 with no modifiers, you might need a bit higher than 15, shall we say. So it's good that they actually say here that it's based on the number calculated by the DM. Now it should say it's called difficulty class or DC, but they don't. The higher the number once you add the roll, R-O-L-E, and the bonus together, the more chance you're successful. Whatever the outcome, it's back to the Dungeon Master to describe what happens next. It's really good, really, really good. So almost into the adventure now, at which point I will pause and I will then do the conclusion. Session 0. Now this is brilliant. This is so important. This has to be in the book. I don't think it was actually in the original printed version of the Dungeon Master's Guide or the DMG, but Session 0. Like 0 is the most important number in D&D. Rule 0 is that the DM is the final arbiter of all the rules in the game. 2. Session 0 is the session that you do to determine the tone and what you like and what you don't like and what you want to see and what you don't want to see. And there was another one as well that I forgot. I should know because it's in the signature of my forum. Session 0. And, oh yeah, Zero D&D is better than the Bad D&D. That's the other one. So, before you play, a Dungeon Master might discuss with the players what everyone wants from the game and set some ground rules. This consultation is often referred to as Session 0. If your group decides it wants a more serious setting with in-depth world building and hefty backstories, there are decades of D&D lore to play with. Considerably much more than in 5th edition. which we'll be touching on in this series. Oh, that's good. I'm genuinely glad. I hope so. Like, I've seen that there are red wizards in the in issue 3 or issue 4, so got that to look forward to. A DM might also want to make sure to steer clear of anything their players would prefer not to encounter or experience. For example, a player with a serious phobia of rats might not be thrilled to find themselves knee-deep in rodents when they enter the Stonehill Inn, but Dungeons & Dragons is an incredibly flexible game. A minor tweak by the DM could turn cranium rats into a swarm of rats into cranium cats and a swarm of cats, sidestepping that phobia. All of the creature stats and remaining encounter text can be used in exactly the same way as it's written. That's really good. I like that they give an example of, like, okay, so what would you do in a session 0? What kind of stuff is there? That's brilliant. That's good, you know? Cranium cats. How very terrifying. DM top tip. Being inclusive. The tone and setting of a game could vary wildly, and it's completely up to the DM and the players. Your table may want to keep things light-hearted and humorous, or prefer a more hard-nosed, combat-heavy feel. I think they sort of need to swap that text there with the whole phobia thing of, like, being inclusive. Because the thing is, like, you can actually just say, no, this is not the kind of game. Like, if you want a dungeon crawl and this is like a very story-heavy game, this is not the table for you. Don't ask me to change it. This is the game I'm running for you. If you don't want to play that, like, don't come to a session 0 of Curse of Strahd and say, I want to play Tomb of Annihilation. No. Find a different table. You know? Have your expectations. Honestly, like, talking to my DM about expectations, having had to be told numerous times, in complete fairness to him, yeah, it's like I've set my expectations and I enjoy the game so much more because I'm not looking for things to nitpick. I'm just enjoying it for what it is. And it's a really good campaign because I can. Playing the game. It's important for new Dungeon Masters to understand that to play D&D and to play it well, you don't need to read all of the rules and memorize every detail of the game. Understanding the basics allows you to tackle most situations that arise. If something comes up and you're not sure how it works, make a ruling at that time. You can always flick back through your collected editions of D&D Adventurer to research it later and change how it works next time. Reaching for a rulebook every time a player asks to do something is the surest way to slow down a game. In most cases, it's better to make a sensible ruling and move on. That's actually really, really good. The DMG does say that, look, no, rulings before rules, rulings not rules, but it's good to say it again, especially when this is for new players who don't have those books, or are less likely to have those books. Personalise your story. As a Dungeon Master, it's useful to discuss the motivation and backstory of each character with your players. This lets you figure out if the character has any specific goals, and allows you to weave their personal tastes more fully into the storyline. These conversations might make up part of the Session 0 discussion. In future issues, as you begin to learn more about the game and how to play it, you can start being creative with the adventure material. But don't worry, we'll show you some easy and fun ways to add more drama, intrigue, and excitement to your game. And that they do. And now they've got 2 boxes here. Dice rolls. A Dungeon Master gets to see how well the players roll, as their dice will be visible to everyone at the table. However, the players don't usually get to see how the Dungeon Master rolls, as their dice land behind a DM screen that shields the results from them. This brings a level of drama, as it does indeed at times, as the players don't know how well a monster might have rolled to spot them sneaking past. That's a really good example. It's not just about combat, it's about other things as well. One of my favourite Dungeon Master tricks is just rolling dice idly and just going, writes the result down, and or at least pretends to, just to get the players moving. It's particularly fun. I just like hearing our DM just go, I've just got to quickly roll something. Oh god. It's like, but I didn't ask to do anything. So a DM might also use this anonymity to soften a blow if his dice are rolling. Not if their dice. This is a thing that, like, Like, okay, I like it in Buffyverse where it usually use female pronouns because the Slayer is female. Um, but it's really weird, like in some RPGs where like, it swaps them about willy nilly. It's like I'd rather just use, neutral ones if possible. So yeah, if his roll dice are rolling particularly well, if they roll a critical hit, max 20 on a d20, several times, the monsters deal additional damage each time. Even a swarm of rats can wipe out a party of characters if the DM rolls too well, especially at level 1, as we're going to find out here, because this is a level 1 adventure. A balanced party. Players are free to build whatever characters they choose. The more input they have, the more they'll bond with their characters. Without stepping on that creativity, also remind them that a balanced party can deal with many different kinds of situations and threats if they choose to assemble one. The pre-created characters we've supplied with this issue follow this belief. Party healer H.Y.D.R.A is also the tank, heavily armoured, difficult to knock down. Fighter Irina provides cover fire with a longbow. Wizard Merovic acts as support and battlefield control, while Rogue Krantor is handy with a blade and can get into places he's not supposed to be. I think that's really good, and again it's using resources already in the book to give you examples, and you can look at those and say, oh yes, I see that now. I don't have to make a character myself because I can use these examples here that really help out. And so now we're going to look at the adventure, the first adventure of D&D Adventurer, King Under the Hill. And finally, we're on to the adventure King Under the Hill. This adventure is a great introduction to the game for new players. Players can use the 4 pre-generated character sheets in this issue or create their own. The playtime is 1 to 2 hours, which I think is actually quite good. A nice little one-shot, because sometimes one-shots, especially online, tend to go well over the fact that it's a one-shot. So usually of the 4-hour mark. So having one that lasts only 1 to 2 hours is pretty good. The new starter set, I think Dragon of something, is also quite short as well. I think it's for levels 1 to 3. So rather than have people commit to a campaign, however small, like the Lost Man of Vandelver or the Essentials kits, Dragon of Spire Peak, it's really good to have little adventures like this to see if people just want to play it. They can look at this and say, this isn't for me, and quit subscribing, and they'll say, you know what, I really enjoyed that, and I want to play. From what I've read of this adventure, I'd really not only enjoy playing it, but running it myself. So who knows, one day I might be running this for my darling dearest. So, players, the following information is for the Dungeon Master's eyes only. DM top tip, combat ready. Read the combat rules supplement before you begin. Dungeon Masters might also find it useful to sketch out a rough map of the Stonehill Inn for players to refer to during play. Adventure Overview. In the heart of the bustling mining town of Phandalin is the Stonehill Inn, a roadhouse that plies its trade from folk drawn to the frontier by the promise of gold. Its proprietor, Toblin Stonehill, built the inn over the ruins of the much older structure, a barrow built by Phandalin's original settlers. Toblin doesn't know that deep beneath his inn, just under where his ale cellar is now, a long-dead chieftain lies buried. Scheming powers of evil have set their sights on unearthing the chieftain's remains and stealing his funeral treasures. In the dead of night, they send their minions, a ring of devious cranium rats, to overwhelm the inn and dig down into the hidden grave. The adventurers unwittingly enter soon after the rats' initial assault. While the cranium rats hold Toblin and his guests prisoner upstairs, swarms of the lesser vermin tunnel through the cellar floor to locate the long-lost grave. Adventure goals. To complete this adventure, adventurers must kill or drive out all of the monsters in the inn. Don't reveal this goal up front, let the players uncover it for themselves. Bollocks. So, let's read on. And so, this is essentially, almost entirely, the adventure right here. I'm not going to read all the details out loud, and I imagine the images on screen will probably give you a bit more information. So it tells you, without going into too many details, the Stonehill Inn has features. Normally a sanctuary of warmth and good cheer, the Stonehill Inn has been quietened by the arrival of rat swarms. The following features are common throughout. So it tells you about The furnishings. Inside the inn, everything looks hastily abandoned. Chairs have been upturned and drinks spilled in the panic to escape. Ceilings. Okay, so it actually tells you the stats for them. Not stats as such, but they are 8 feet high and flat, crafted from thick oak timbers. So this is good for really setting the scene. Doors. Doors are made from thick, sturdy oak. None of the doors are locked, and most internal doors stand ajar. Light. The inn is brightly lit by oil lanterns mounted on the walls or propped on tables. Rats. Sign of rat infestation everywhere. I love this little bit out here. Tiny wet claw marks. Wet claw prints crisscross the floor, and most surfaces are covered in droppings. Ominous scratching can be heard from below. Oh, that's brilliant. Windows. Windows are set with diamond-paned glass! I saw about 2 weeks ago on the D&D Beyond forums, someone was asking, are windows common in D&D? And here we've got fucking diamond-paned glass! Yeah, sure, just have diamond windows. You know, it's not like the cleric needs those for the Revivify spell, just fucking break a window. Hope that's worth 300 gold! Windows on the second floor are 11 feet high above ground level. Not 10 feet, like, you know, to play along with the whole 1 square equals 5 foot thing, but still. And I have to say as well, I do like the map that we get. That is a nice map. Very simple but well thought out. I hope in future they credit the authors, because that is a lovely thing. Very simple, but it's so effective. And the best part is as well, it's replicable. You can actually just sketch it out. You can get some tracing paper and you can sketch it out. That's really good. I like maps like that. And as well, I think it goes with the idea of like a fantasy theme of like someone, like you've got a cartographer. Someone in this world has been paid to draw this little map. That's really cool. It's a shame that they don't seemingly have any author's marks or anything like that. But still. So, beginning the adventure. The adventure begins when the characters seek shelter at Stonehill Inn during a storm. Set the scene by reading the following box text. To escape the downpour, you make for the warmth of the Stonehill Inn, a popular roadhouse in the mining town of Phandalin. As you approach, you notice something odd. Warm lights shine from within, but no laughter or music can be heard. So it's very, very haunting and quite scary. A good beginning to, I think, like a sort of perhaps even a horror adventure. I suppose in a way that's what it is, because it's got rats and rats are scary. And so it tells you about... Oh, and it says the map printed below shows the layout of the premises. If this is the players' first adventure together, ask them to describe their characters for the group. When everyone is done, ask the group how they plan to approach the inn. So it gives the DM instructions. This is so good. This is what I really like about the starter set, the original starter set with the Lost Man of Phandelver. And this, it tells the DM what to do. It gives them hints on how to go about things. Because when I was first reading the starter set before I played D&D, I was thinking, well, how do I get to do this? And like, I looked at it and I thought, oh, it tells you right here how to actually play the game and how to get others to play the game. And this is brilliant. This kind of stuff. It tells you about the enemy cranium rats and how they're created and what they do and the effects. Let's have a look. It mentions John Lowbutton, who we had mentioned before. Let's have a look. Doesn't seem to be much call for skill checks. It really is like a combat adventure. And it gives you solutions on how to deal with the swarms of rats and top them. And you get some more maps to look at. Really simple designs with like staircases and arrows and such, telling you where to go. All good stuff. Yeah, all keyed out. I can easily see this taking like an hour or two, like with brand new players. Like I remember doing like the tutorial arena, a story that I recapped before, and yeah, just a brilliant fight. And yeah, it took about 2 hours to do. And this I can easily see with the brand new players taking 2 hours. For an experienced group, less than an hour. They know what they're doing. The players know who they are, what they're there for. They'll go in and deal with the rats and see the end of it. Now, one thing I like about this is that also as well, because it's your first adventure, they tell you the stat blocks and what the stats mean. All this kind of stuff, and the weapon I will talk about very soon, because I really like there's something about this weapon. So it tells you about the character stat boxes. When a monster reaches 0 hit points, it dies. In combat, an attack roll must equal or exceed this number to hit the target armor class. A monster can move this far on its turn. It takes one action at any point. It can take one action at any point during this movement of 30 feet. It tells you about condition immunities, such as charmed, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, prone, restrained, and stunned. So they can't be charmed and frightened, and yet you've got to drive the rats out. I don't know. I mean, it does actually say somewhere in here about fleeing, so yeah, that's quite good. I just said something like that, as if I hadn't read it. In combat, a monster takes one action on its turn. It doesn't go into bonus actions, which is a bit disappointing, but understandable. That's probably for later. This monster cannot be affected by these conditions, so as I said before, resistances and immunities. Holy shit, Swarm of Rats is actually resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. No mention of even like from non-magical weapons, which the party wouldn't have anyway. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Holy shit. Medium swarm of tiny beasts. So that's how swarms work. Okay, unaligned. Not like they typically have this alignment, or they are just unaligned. If a monster has resistance to a damage type, reduce that damage. This is really helpful. So the swarm of rats has resistance. This is really good. This is actually a really good enemy to throw at a first level group of players, because if a monster has resistance to a damage type, reduce that damage by half. Round down. There are few enemies that have resistance to all sort of damage, or rather to like mundane and magical weapons. So yeah, this is really good that you're actually showing on a stat block that has this thing, and you can teach players how to deal with it. They go further. Oh, hang on, are there any more DM top tips? Oh yeah, DM top tip. At the end of the adventure, ask the players to divide any gold between them. If they found the sword, it's best to assign it to a frontline character, such as a fighter or barbarian. Barbarian's not covered in this part of the chapter. DM top tip. Make sure to describe the glow of the cranium rat's exposed brains to add a greater sense of danger and dread. And, yeah. If you read through the character... Oh, no, sorry, that's just ordinary voice. If you read through the character creation section, you'll recognize some of the data that makes up the creatures above. We'll explore stat blocks more fully in a future... creature stat blocks in a more fully in a future issue. So, there we are. So look at that art. That's brilliant. I don't know if that's original or not, or like unique to this. I hope it, again, I really hope it is, because then you get to see some really awesome homebrew monsters. And I hope that D&D Adventurer goes into that. I hope it goes into, like, here's a unique background to D&D Adventurer. You can have this background, I know, like, surgeon background, and you get to do this, this, and this for money. You get, these features, you get the standard equipment. Adding new homebrew weapons. In fact, this one is, I think, a homebrew weapon. Brightblade. I love this weapon. And I'm going to tell you why right now. I'm going to read the flavor text to you. So, basically, ending the adventure. If the adventurers free the innkeeper from captivity and rid the inn of rats, they are awarded 100 gold pieces. Adventurers who exhume the buried chieftain can claim his magic sword. Brightblade. All one word. The grip of this long sword is inset with tiny glass orbs that glow faintly. Brightblade was one of the many blades forged by the elves of H.Y.D.R.A and awarded to trusted friends and allies. It's said that the hidden cities of H.Y.D.R.A can only be found by wielding such weapons. I'll read the stats. You have a +1 bonus to attack and damage when wielding this magic weapon. As a bonus action, you can cause the blade to shed a bright light in 10 feet radius and dim light for additional 10 feet or extinguish the light. The reason why I like this blade is because at the end of this adventure, if you find this blade, you then talk to Doblin and say, okay, I found this blade, what is it? I don't know, but there's a guy in town. Now that you've freed us, how would you look? There's this guy who was staying with us. He's gone, but he was on this road to somewhere. Find him, he'll know about it. Okay, you talk to that guy, and he tells you, oh, this is a blade of Iliamberon. Iliamberon. And you can find the Lost City by using this blade. If you find 4 blades, it'll point to the city. You found one of them, great. Okay, and then you can go to the city of Iliamberon and loot all its treasures and face all the things there. It's a brilliant adventure hook, and I hope it's intentional that they actually made up this bit of lore here to potentially inspire DMs to go on and do something with this sword. You've now got this sword which can point you to this city. Yeah, hold it aloft and it'll point you, like one of those sticks that shows you water. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Like, I know now that I could do an adventure with that. I could actually have a campaign from levels, like, say, 1 to 5, finding the lost city of Iliamberon. And using this sword. That's brilliant. It's an adventure hook, like, and who knows, like, I mean, maybe I'm not giving new players enough credit, but hopefully they can think of that and get inspired. I want to see things like this in a D&D Adventurer magazine, because that's brilliant. Like, weapons with lore, and lore that you can actually incorporate into the game and even turn into an adventure in itself. Hopefully, Iliamberon will become an adventure, and I'll take the credit for the adventure. Thank you, D&D Adventurer magazine, Partworks. And that is Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer magazine, ending on a high note, and of course we've got the Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer character sheet there. Fairly standard character sheet, except it's got Adventurer and a fairly low poly count dragon, should we say, and that there. Now, something else I wanted to talk about in this magazine is the introduction to combat. I'm not going to go into this book into too great detail. So it does tell you about the rules of engagement, so what are the 5 steps you take. So determine surprise, establish positions, roll initiative, take turns, and begin the next round. And it goes into the details of that very well indeed. Yeah. Figuring out what happens during a battle doesn't have to be a confusing mix of maths and rules. Oh, it does. It does. When you start learning this game, you have to be as pedant. You have to be as much a pedant as you possibly can. Like the artwork there as well. I forget the name of that monster. It's like a stone monster with like tentacles. I think it looks like an ordinary stalagmite, but then when it opens its mouth and eyes, obviously, and it like grapples people and lures them in. I can't remember what it's called though. It's cool. Yeah, and they talk about actions as well. Now there are more actions than what they mention here. So they say attack, cast a spell, dash, help, hide. It doesn't say anything about using an object or disengaging, which is one of the most helpful actions you could possibly have. They also show a rogue here as well who can do cunning action, which I guess they don't want to overcomplicate, but it should have reminded them, gee, there surely are more options than this, aren't there? Now, what I like about this as well is that this is my favourite part of this book, the combat example. Now, it gives you essentially almost like a session recap. It's like as if I wrote this, except it's not as good. Follow the example below to create memorable combat encounters every time. So it tells you how one of the fights goes, and it uses the characters and the adventures in the magazine, which is brilliant, because it makes it all the more relatable. And that's really something. That's really helpful. I can't give enough credit. On pages 3 and 4, we lay down the procedure of this example encounter takes you from the opening actions of the fight to the final moments of battle. So it has quite a bit of flavor text and really inspiring stuff in here. And it tells you what the character's doing. We've got top tip. The more opponents attacking your party, the more chances the DM has to roll well and injure one of your characters. Focusing the party's attacks on one enemy can knock that creature out of the fight and reduce the overall threat. DM top tip. If you want to help keep the game flowing, you can have your creatures deal average damage. You'll see every character's damage listed as a figure following the number of dice in brackets. For example, a full-strength swarm of rats deals 7 2d6 piercing damage. You have the option to roll a d6 twice and take that result for the swarm's damage when they try to hit with the characters. Or you can speed things up by choosing the average amount of damage those dice would deliver, listed here at 7. And it goes into full details. I will read round 1 of combat after initiative and taking turns. Meravik, with an initiative score of 18, halfling wizard Meravik is the first to act. He steps 5 feet forward to stand between the rogue fully and throws open the door. It's a free action to interact with a door or other objects. See on the list at page 7 of this supplement. He then casts Firebolt at the swarm of rats. The enemy has an armor class of AC. Good. AC in brackets after armor class. Has an armor class AC of 10, which the wizard must match or surpass to score a hit. Meravik has a +6 to hit, Jesus Christ, with a firebolt and rolls a 12 on the d20, easily hitting his target.
Wow.
He rolls a d10 for the damage as listed next to the spell, and the swarm of rats takes 7 points of fire damage. The swarm started with the fight with 24 hit points HP. Nice. And is reduced to 17 HP. Meravik then uses the remaining 20 feet of movement to move away from the kitchen door and back into the common room. Nice. So it's showing you how to divide the movement up with an action, how to hit, do damage, and calculate the damage done. This is really, really good stuff. I'm dead proud of the D&D Adventurers guys for this, because this is something that's so incredibly important. Swarm of Rats. Since the swarm of rats is surprised, it can't move or take an action or bonus action this round. However, as its turn has now passed, it can take a reaction to if the opportunity presents itself before its next turn. Krantor. The rogue throws his dagger through the now open door at the swarm of rats. Unfortunately, his aim is off. His low roll of 3 on a d20, plus 6 skill with the dagger, adds up to 9, which is less than the swarm of rats' AC of 10. Krantor also moves 15 feet back into the common room to make space for the cleric and the fighter. H.Y.D.R.A, the dwarven cleric, bravely rushes into the kitchen to confront the rats in melee combat. Her shield in one hand, she lashes out with a warhammer in another, rolling 11 on the d20 and adding her +4 skill with the warhammer is listed on her character sheet as a d8 +2, and she rolls a 6 on the d8 for 5 total bludgeoning damage. Hang on. Her damage with the warhammer is listed on her character sheet as a d8 +2. And she rolls a 6 on the d8 for 5... What? d8 +2. Rolls a 6 +2. She rolls an 8. So that's 8 total damage. Even with resistance, that would be 4. She rolls a 6 on the d8 for 5 total... What? I don't know. Anyway. However, the swarm of rats has resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. It reduces this amount by half to 4 damage, and now has 13. Yeah, see, okay, yeah, it reduces this amount to... Right. She rolls a 6 for 5 total bludgeoning damage. I genuinely don't know what's going on there. But yeah, see, they got it right in the end. Like, yeah, so she got 8 total damage, so 6 + 2 is 8. Half that due to the resistance of the rats, so that's 4 damage, and so now she reduces it from 17 to 13 hit points. Right. Irina moves into the kitchen so she can see the rats clearly, but not close enough to be in melee combat. Even though she only rolls a 3 on the d20, as an archer specialist, Irina has a +7 to hit with a longbow. That makes her attack roll 10. A total attack roll 10, which matches the AC of the swarm of rats, and it's enough to hit. She rolls 7 piercing damage in total, 5 on the d8 +2. Yeah, that's correct. With damage resistance that's halved down to 3.5, so the rats take 3 damage. Always round down. Always round down unless stated otherwise. Specific versus general is one of the core tenets of D&D maths. The swarm now only has 10 HP remaining, and then they go into round 2. And, of course, the rogue lands the final blow. One thing I like as well, I think this was a Critical Role thing, at least they popularised it, is how do you want to do this? I would love to see at the end where Krantos player is asked, how do you kill the swarm of rats? It's usually left for like the big kill, like the big kill of the fight, or the final kill of the fight. But it's sometimes nice to ask, you know, how do you do this? And it gives that player a chance to go, okay, so I do this, I have this whole scene in my head planned, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and it's so cool. Because it's all cosmetic at the end of the day. You've killed the monster. Sometimes I just go, you know what, I just go, shoot it, and it's dead. No theatrics, move on to the next target. And yeah, and sometimes that's fine. And other people are like, okay, I take my warhammer and I shove it in his mouth, and it sparks with electricity, and explodes his head, and brains go everywhere, shatter into the skulls of everyone else, and etc. etc. Many a times have people been stuck to a wall with a rapier as well. That's another one. That's something of a meme for me. Anyway, and so they go on to attacks of opportunity and disengaging. Okay, so they do actually talk about disengaging. That's good. And then taking damage, and talking about death saving throws and instant death. Really good stuff. This is good. This is brilliant. And I love this because it goes into the adventure that's in the book, and it uses the character sheets that come with the adventure. And now I've got to talk about these before I finish talking about the characters. So we'll just take Krantor Thranax's character sheet here. So yeah, as I say, I'll have these scanned in at some stage. But yeah, so that's all the information there. Hang on. So just zoom in a bit. So that's all the stuff there. Like if you've played D&D before, you've seen character sheets before, but they also come with pre-printed character art as well, which is taken from a book that already exists. I think that was in Waterdeep. Yeah. And a lot of the stuff is already there, so like stuff that doesn't need to be changed for like level 1 character, like armor class, initiative, movement speed, hit die. That's not stuff that you need to pencil in yourself. And it's good as well that on the blank character sheet, if maybe you want to play a rogue at level 1, well, okay, so you know what your armor class is going to be, initiative, speed, hit die, because it's all in the basic rules, it's in the books, it's in the magazine. And yeah, it's all easy to read and look over. Yeah. And in the next issue, when they cover rogues, it'll tell you about how expertise works as well, because rogues are one of those classes that get expertise. I can't wait for one D&D where all the expert classes get expertise. And Artificer will be an expert class, because if not, I'll have to eat yet another hat. And yeah, because they're just experts. Trust me, they are. Watch my session recaps and you will see. Anyway, so I'm going to pause it there and I'm going to do the conclusion as to what I think of Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer magazine. So here we are in the final stretch of the video now, where I have to ask, how do I feel about Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer magazine issue 1 and thoughts going forward? I like the concept. I like the execution. I just don't think it suits a Partwork. 80 issues of this magazine at the premium subscription model, where you get character models, character minis every 4 issues, I think. It's going to be fairly costly, and yeah, that's a lot of money, to like £2,650 for basically reprinting the basic rules. It's not going to work. The kind of person who's going to buy all 80 issues is someone who thinks they can sell it back as a collector's item, and it won't be. So, and as well, like, I don't think it just has a sustainable model. Like, you can't sell dice all the time. Like Warhammer, you can sell a single mini every single Partwork, because it builds up this skirmish team, or this vehicle, or this army. Yeah, okay, that works fine. It's yeah, you would normally pay a ton a go. You'd pay like £50 a pop. For like some Games Workshop stuff, but here you're getting a little magazine and you're getting the items piecemeal, and yeah, it'll cost more in the long run, but at least you're getting to know the game as well. That's really good. Also as well, you've got Games Workshop who have staff who can help you, so that works. That's fine. D&D doesn't really work as a part, whether, because there's only so much you can sell. I don't need 79 more sets of dice. I don't need pouches and dice towers and minis. I've got my character sheets. I've got the rules. I know how to put them to use. This first issue, to be honest, if I read this, I feel, you know what? I'm ready to get a starter set. I don't need more issues of this magazine. I can freely go and read the basic rules and help other people learn. And that's great. That's brilliant. That's exactly what this should be doing. But as a business model, it doesn't work. The other kind of people who are going to be looking at this game are the ones who subscribe for bad reasons, negative reasons. That they read it and they go, no, it's not for me. I'll save my money and I'll go elsewhere. Or there's other people who are like, I really like the idea of D&D. I love what the magazine does, but I can't get a group together. It's really not as easy as the magazine says. Fuck it, I'm going to save my money and go elsewhere. There are those, however, for positive reasons, think, great, I love this. I love D&D, the group I've played with, absolutely love the adventure, first time, understood it. I'm going to buy a PHP. I'm going to buy my Player's Handbook, and my Dungeon Master's Guide and my Monster Manual. And I'm going to stop my subscription to this magazine. I'm going to stop buying it because I've now got all of the rules. All of the rules to D&D. And I don't have to wait a week every week. I don't have to wait for an issue every week for the rules. They're already there, free and available, and with fewer character options than in the PHP. And in total, I spent about £70 versus however much versus 10 issues of this. Yeah, that would give me even less, significantly less than those 3 books. Yeah, which amounts to about 1,000 pages total. Yeah. And that's kind of the problem, really. It falls in a really bad spot, and especially when, going back to the other player who's buying the PHP. This book mentions Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, so that player might end up buying Tasha's Cauldron of Everything along with their Player's Handbook to give their players and their characters even more options. And Xanathar's Guide to Everything and SCAG, or rather Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, not Heroine. Something, Heroine and the conception of this game. It just doesn't really have much of a place. The idea of giving new players advice is absolutely necessary in D&D. I'm all for Wizards of the Coast publishing articles and all manner of things to help people get into D&D. But as a Partwork, it doesn't really work. The thing is that Dungeons & Dragons Adventure Magazine isn't even that unique in terms of a print point of view. So D&D Beyond only exists on the internet. And the internet will eventually go down, or at least D&D Beyond will eventually go down, and lose support for a lot of things. Things can be redacted, removed, and otherwise changed, and errated out. Whereas your physical copy always remains. The editor cannot come and change this copy that I own in my house. Unless I give them permission to, of course. But the thing is like, Dungeons & Dragons Adventure Magazine isn't unique. Because there used to be, once upon a time, Dungeon and Dragon magazines. Dungeon was one magazine, Dragon was another. Dungeon was then either folded into Dragon magazine or just eliminated entirely, and Dragon magazine was the tabletop role-playing magazine for D&D especially. I don't know too much about the history, so I apologise if I get things wrong. And then Dragon was eventually took out of print and turned into a digital app called Dragon Plus, and Dragon Plus got closed down, and we've once again had a reminder from D&D Beyond just to say Dragon Magazine is Dragon Plus, the app, is now closing down, and that means that this magazine is basically like trying to carry on a tradition, like carry the torch of Dragon Magazine that was killed because it was print, and Wizards of the Coast was trying to move digital, and continues to do so. So I don't know what Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer aims to do, given that history. I really don't. And also as well, it's not even all that unique as a Partwork, because there used to be something called the Fiend Folio, the original monster manual. And it had hole punches like this, and it came with a binder, or you had to buy a binder for it, and you would add like the community's monster stat blocks. People would submit monsters, and the developers would add, the writers of this magazine would add new monsters every month or every issue, with lore, like habitats, diet, alignment, like abilities, all this sort of stuff. Stat blocks, a full page this size. It wasn't just. Oh, I suppose it was actually. But let's go back. Yeah, okay. I'll use the cranium rats as the example. Yeah, so it would look like this, except you'd have like here. No, in fact, no, you'd have like here, all lore, and then you'd have the artwork there, and then you'd have like the stat block there. Yeah, Fiend Folio, and yeah. So even as Partwork, it's not particularly new. It's just repeating something that Wizard of the Coast. Oh yeah, Wizard of the Coast killed off before. So I just don't know what place it has today. I get that, you know, a lot of people won't know this stuff. Christ, I don't know half of it because I never read Dungeon or Dragon magazine. But I'm just basically going off what I've heard through osmosis. And yeah, I just don't know what Dungeons and Dragons Adventure is supposed to do in the long term. It's too expensive for what it is. What it is brilliant. It's phenomenal. But the model just doesn't really work. I sort of feel like Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer could easily be pushed into the player's handbook. It's in a way, it's actually why I'm for like an advanced and basic 5th edition, which there is actually like a Level Up Advanced 5th edition by EN Publishing, which I have the PDF of. I didn't get the hardcover or paperback. I don't think they did a paperback. But yeah, I would love an official basic, which this would be. This could be like basic D&D, and basic D&D 5th edition, and then you've got advanced D&D 5th edition, which is like the player's handbook with a lot more meat to it, because that's what it needs. I'd be fine with 2 separate products. And if D&D Adventurer magazine was like a book, D&D Adventurer book, yeah, explaining the rules in a term that is easily digestible, and then when you've done that, you can go on to the next thing. You can go on to the Player's Handbook, and then perhaps, who knows, later on you might go to the Advanced Player's Handbook. So yeah, I think there is. I think it has a place. I think these writers are brilliant. I did originally look at it thinking, this is written by people who are, you know, they're more used to writing magazines than writing about D&D. Like they're good writers for like a magazine, but they're not D&D players. They've been given a list of things to put in their own words for their target audience, is how I view it. But honestly, no, like going into it, it's like, this is actually really good stuff. And it's really helpful. And very inspiring as well. And that's what makes it so hard to say that I want the concept to live, but not the magazine in its format. Because I don't bear any ill will to Hachette Partworks. They obviously know their stuff. They know their stuff, perhaps a bit too well, because they cut a lot of it out and put it into another issue. But the original content is there. I would love to see more stuff from it, but I would have to see more to justify it. Like less of the rules drip feeding, and more of the adventures, more monsters, more feats and backgrounds, and perhaps even homebrew subclasses, unearthed arcana, that sort of thing. Unearthed arcana being like the official playtest material. So I want to see stuff like that. And as well, and that's another thing as well, D&D is about to finish 5th edition and go into 1 D&D, or D&D 5.25 or 5.5 edition. And 80 issues, like a year and a half of this, it's kind of like getting to the end of 5th edition, because 1 D&D is expected to come around 2024, and this magazine will be done around early 2024 to late 2023 when it's done. Yeah, weekly issue, 80 weekly issues. Yeah. So even then, so a lot of the information is going to become obsolete. Well, even though like 1 D&D is supposed to be backwards compatible with 5th edition, it's still just a lot of information that's going to get wasted or not be as new and fresh and exciting, and may even be incompatible with some of the new rules. So we'll see. So that's it, really. I like the concept. I like the stuff that I've got. I will remain subscribed to it, but £2,650 for all 80 issues is a lot of money for a lot of reprinted stuff, and you can't sell me on dice. Alright, if I wanted some dice, I'd get them, and I'd get some better quality dice elsewhere, of my own choosing. And I think it's like it just doesn't really do enough in the long term. I think for people who want to play D&D. So yeah, I like the idea. I want it to survive, but it cannot survive in the current model. I don't like the current model of it being Partwork, and as much as I like it being a print magazine, there's not enough there to really justify me staying subscribed. I will subscribe for as long as I can, but I don't think that's going to be very long. I think the first few issues will do what they absolutely need to for my partner and I to play D&D together, but beyond that, I'm sorry. It's a thumbs down. It's like a middle to thumbs down for me. Yeah, I wish Partwork's the very best. I thank them for introducing me to this because it is a phenomenal thing. But they need to do a lot more marketing. If I had to suggest an improvement, it would definitely be to market this, to get it outside of the UK, get it in Europe, get it in the US. It will absolutely be worth it at that point, I think. You may survive to 20 issues, but all 80, I can't see it. I think it's going to suffer the same problem of all Partworks, and maybe that's intentional. I don't know. But whatever else Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer magazine has in store for me, I eagerly await. So, thank you ever for watching this rather rambly video. I hope it's been comprehensive, and I hope it's helped you make a decision as to whether you want to buy the magazine or not, and perhaps it's given you a little bit of insight on how to play D&D as well. And I hope, please, honestly, I invite all people to talk to me about this magazine. I invite Partwork subscribers and perhaps even writers and editors to talk about it. I invite new players to tell me what they think about it, if they would find it useful. Experienced players, is there anyone at your table who might benefit from this? What do you think? Do you think this is perhaps too infantilizing to the new players? Do you think it's not enough? Do you think they need more basic information delivered in a particular way? I want to know, because I think I'm the most enthusiastic person for this in the world. No hyperbole. I can't find all that many forum posts about this. There's not really any talk anywhere. It's essentially a footnote in any discussion that I've been involved in. So I look forward to seeing what else Partworks are doing with this, but I'm not overly optimistic. Thank you ever so much for watching. Take care, and ta for now.